Hey, YouTube. Hey, survivors of non-consensual human experimentation. It is about 12:30 at night, Central Time, and I wanted to just do a live stream. I wanted to go through some court documents for Richard Kane's case, where he actually got a settlement, and I'm not sure if the targeting stopped after that or if it kept going, but I do know that he got he got implants out of his body and out of his two sons' bodies, and then got a settlement from court. So I want to go through some of those documents. I know Michael Bardin went through very extensively, but I just wanted to go what Richard Kane, get that document up on the screen so people could get it, and go through that. I'm gonna play some music while I wait for some more people to get in the chat. Just to kind of pump me up and maybe pump other people up. I found that when I do play Prince Haldir's videos, they demonetize my videos, but I just use it for like banner ads or whatever. So that's not really a big deal. So I'm gonna play a couple of like two videos just to kind of get warmed up and kind of get myself in the right headspace. And I've got a lot of information to go through. And maybe it depends on what you guys put in the chat, and we can go through some other stuff too. I woke up about, let's see, I woke up at about 8 tonight, so I'm probably going to be up all night, and we can just kind of, hang out, chat, go through information until I get pooped out, until I get tired. Did want to mention when I woke up, it felt like a midget was trying to fight his way out of my torso with a knife that had been heated up. I guess that's a stereotype, right? So I have to say a little person was trying to fight his way out of my torso with like a heated up knife. But I'm gonna go ahead and play like two videos just to kind of get myself in the right headspace. Wait for some more people to get in the chat, and then I'll start going through documents. And then I'm gonna have to go back. Last time I had a page open. Well, I'll get that going, while I play these videos. But give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to go ahead and screen share and play some videos real quick. I'm going to do my entire screen. And just for a second, while we wait for some more people to come in, Okay, one more, guys. I'm just kind of shaking off the torture here. I'm gonna get my head working. I'm gonna go to this channel. And then we'll get started.
Experience is important. We get it. At DeVry, you'll do more than just learn. You'll experience. Do you know what it's like when you're scared to see yourself? Do you know what it's like when you wish you were someone else who didn't need your help to get by? Do you know what it's like to wanna surrender? I don't wanna feel like this tomorrow. I don't wanna live like this today. Make me feel better. I wanna feel better. Stay with me here now and never surrender. Do you know what it's like when you're not who you wanna be? Do you know what it's like to be your own worst enemy? Who sees the things in me I can't hide? Do you know what it's like to wanna surrender? I don't wanna feel like this tomorrow. I don't wanna live like this today. Make me feel better. I wanna feel better. Stay with me here now and never surrender. Make me feel better. You make me feel better. You make me feel better. Put me back together. I don't wanna feel like this tomorrow. I don't wanna live like this today. Make me feel better. I need to feel better. Stay with me here now and never surrender. Put me back together. Never surrender. Make me feel better. You make me feel better. Stay with me here now and never surrender.
All right, guys. Now I'm gonna try and get on the screen with the chat because my Google Hangouts window doesn't have y'all's chats in there. Let me go to my own video, to my own live stream. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna pause it. Hey, Truth Devoured, how you doing, man? I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna pull up first. I have a lot of documents that I want to go through. And Michael Barton, on one of his videos, went through most of the court documents and read through them. But I just want to get this up on the screen. It's at https://flowofwisdom.files.wordpress.com/2015/06/Cain -v-department-of-defense-et-al .pdf. And there is actually, if you go to Flow of Wisdom, which actually I just want to go to it real quick so y'all can get this link. You just go to Flow of Wisdom, Richard Kane, in YouTube. Let's see, Flow of Wisdom, Richard Kane. There's an interview that Flow of Wisdom did with Richard Kane, and I think this was maybe before he got the settlement. But this is a very, very good interview to watch. It explains how, Richard Kane was implanted at a certain hospital, and so were his two sons. So he knew what hospital that it was at. He found a doctor who was able to take the implants out. Then once he had the implants in his possession, he did file suit against, and I'll show y'all who he filed suit against, and did win a settlement. But then a gag order was placed on him, and I'm not sure if the targeting stopped. Anybody in chat, if you do know if his targeting stopped or have heard anything about that, please let me know, or let me know in the comments. But I wanted to go through the summons in the civil action that he put in. So, United States District Court for the Central District of California, Richard L. Kane. A lawsuit has been filed against you within 21 days after service of the summons on you, not counting the day you received it, or 60 days if you are the United States or a United States agency, or an officer or employee of the United States described in Fed R Civ Part 12 A2 or 3. You must serve on the plaintiff and answer to the attached complaint or a motion under Rule 12 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The answer or motion must be served on the plaintiff or plaintiff's attorney, whose name and address are Richard L. Kane, and then they give his address. And so I want to go down to, has his information, and a lot of people send him emails, but I don't think he responds to a lot of them. I think he kind of walked away from all of this. He got the settlement. I think he got the implants taken out of him and his sons. I'm not sure if the targeting then stopped after this, but it's important for us to see who he brought the suit against. The United States District Court, Central District of California. Richard L. Kane, an individual, plaintiff, versus Barack H. Obama, President of the United States Department of Defense, Chuck Hagel in his official and individual capacity as Secretary of Defense, United States Central Intelligence Agency, John Brennan in his official and individual capacity as Director of Central Intelligence Agency. The next one's a very important one because I'd never heard of them being involved in this. Space and Naval Warfare Systems Command, Pat Brady in his official and individual capacity as Chief of Naval Operations. United States Army Research Material Command, John McHugh in his official capacity and individual capacity as Secretary of the Army. Level 3 Communications, a private entity, Alfred Mann. So complaint for damages. And he keeps going. Hold on. And he names his hospital. So Alfred Mann Foundation, a private entity. Cottage Center for Advanced Imaging, a private entity. Cottage Health System, a private entity. Dignity Health, a private entity. Sansom Clinic, a private entity. Pueblo Radiology, a private entity. KAI Kinder, MD, in his individual capacity. Sean Snodgrass, MD, in his individual capacity. Ali R. Sephardi, MD, in his individual capacity. where was I there? Hold on. Stephen Hartzman, MD, in his individual capacity. Thomas C. Daughters, MD, in his individual capacity. Arthur A. Lee, MD, in his individual capacity. Nishant Mehta, MD, in his individual capacity. Donald Rink, MD, in his individual capacity. Raymond Mastrovito, MD, in his individual capacity. Ramona Clark, MD, in her individual capacity. John Wrench, MD, in his individual capacity. Kenneth R. Daughters, in his individual capacity. Simon Med Imaging, a private entity. Sansom Diabetes Research Institute, a private entity. Unknown federal agents, and DOES 1 through DOES 100. Those are the defendants there. And then I want to read the violations. And I want you guys, please get this document and look at it. We need to research this, because he did get a settlement and gag order from this. So I think he basically just brought suit against all the people who are involved in this kind of pyramid of people giving the defense contracts, and then people who are actually who are doing the research and development. In his case, he went after the hospitals that put the implants in him directly, but may not have been. And I think, see, when he says at the bottom, he puts in unknown federal agents, DOES 1 through DOES 100. So he's going after the hospitals that actually put the implantation into him, and then saying, federal agents who would be part of the contractors who are doing the research and development. So complaint for damages, civil rights violations, declaratory and injunctive relief. The Bivens action. Bivens, conspiracy to violate Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure in violation of 42 USC and from, I guess that's 1983, 42 USC 1985 and 42 USC 1986. Bivens conspiracy to violate 5th and 14th Amendments, due process rights in violation of 42 USC from all those different years. I guess those were court decisions using the 42 USC clause, I guess. I don't understand the law that well, but I do know that this document is very important. I know that James Wahlberg got a settlement, and he actually went after, he brought suit against the individual, not the agency that the individual was working for, but the actual individual that did it to him, and got a settlement, and I think also a gag order. And I'm not going to read through all that. I'm going to see if there's some other good information in here. So it goes back over the defendants in the case. And I do want to read the preliminary statement. And guys, I want to go to, wait, I'm going to go back to my page. Darn it. Didn't I bring that up? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, hey guys, how are y'all doing tonight? Are y'all feeling okay? Are y'all getting some comfort, a little bit of comfort? Or having to lay down 10 minutes, sit you 5 minutes, lay down 10 minutes all afternoon from the concussions and heat blasts in my body from the houses next door. It's not going to be sitting here. That's cool, Wara. The link, Truth Devoured. Let me put the link up on the page again and go through it. That's it. We all need to get that link. It's really important. And y'all go through this because this is what I think. Okay, I'll say the link, but you can get it. Like if you watch this video, you play back the video, just just pause the page and get the link from the top. But it's https :// flowofwisdom.files.wordpress.com/2015/06 Kane-v-department-of-et-al.pdf. So when we finish this live stream, just go back and freeze the page and get the link. I think you can get the link on when I'm doing this on Google Hangouts. I hope that y'all are getting links. Like, I hope they're showing up on the page. But this is my thought. There are doctors out there, and Richard Cain found one. He found a doctor who did imaging and took implants out of him and his two sons. So they're out there. They're hard to find, though. Because I'm very, very certain that I have at least an implant near my left jaw, either in the second to back tooth or when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. And I'm trying to find a doctor who will do imaging on that side, that side of my jaw, and then be able to take the actual implant out. Now, when I had that, then you can go to a lawyer, call a lawyer, present this case, how he, what's the word for it? How he brought this case against the defendants. He had the implants, and then you have a case. Now, the problem is that, these actions of experimentation on us with implantation, with other catalysts such as nanoparticulates and nanotechnology, even if you get this in court, and let's say you got it to the Supreme Court, you said, I don't want a settlement, I want to go through with it, I want, a jury of my peers, or I want to try and get to the Supreme Court. There's the danger of these cases being redacted because of national security. So that's what, targeted justice is trying to get passed. That's why a lot of these targeted individuals who did get settlements, I think that's why they didn't just keep bringing the case forward. They did take the settlement because the courts would say, hey, this is national security, we can't even talk about this. But I mean, we're trying to get closer and closer to that. But that's one of my goals. I cannot find a doctor, and it's usually, the problem is that when a targeted individual, I think there have been some targeted individuals to go outside of the country to get imaging of where their implant would be, and their implant, or at least a couple of the implants they have in them removed outside of the United States. But they're reluctant, because there's a lot of deceit and there's a lot of COINTELPRO, and people have a hard time trusting each other in our community. So it's not, people aren't just like, oh yeah, I went to this doctor and they got my implant out and here's the name, and they spread it all over the TI community. That's not really happening. So I'm in search of that. And I think there will be more doctors coming along in the very near future who will do this imaging and take it out. A lot of doctors will not, because it is, a lot of doctors will say, oh, that's government, I can't touch that stuff. And they feel like they cannot, that they'll get in trouble. They'll get arrested for interfering in government experimentation. So those are huge speed bumps. They're speed bumps, but I feel as we move forward, they won't be as hard to get over. But we really need to look at this case. Just go back when the live stream is over. But I'm going to go ahead. I want to read the preliminary statement, because this says a lot about what he was going to court for. He had the implants of him and his sons, his two sons. It'd be a good idea to watch that YouTube video on Flow of Wisdom so you can understand exactly what happened. Now, when I think about when I could have been implanted, I could have either gotten my implant when I was born, because I was a sickly baby, and I did have to take special formula and stuff like that. And an implant could have been put in me then. Or when I turned 10, I started getting a lot of symptoms of Crohn's disease. I had a lot of colonoscopies and things like that. And during, like, I did have my my first Crohn's doctor was ex-military, and I went to Ochsner. And Ochsner's been known for doing human experimentation for cancer research, where people don't know that they're having experimentation run on them. Something could have happened there because I had 2 small surgeries and many colonoscopies. So there's a lot of different places where I could have been implanted. But that's something, if you know, if you can get a doctor who can do imaging to find the implant and then get the implant, take it out, and then they will give it to you, then you have got a case. And this is what we should go by. Richard Cain's. Now, I would try, like, if I can eventually find a doctor who will do this, you know, I would, you know, say I would not take the settlement. I don't know if the targeting stops even if they do take the settlements. So like, you know, that's it's one pathway. It's one pathway that we've got to kind of go down, is trying to get the stuff out of our body, having it in hand, having that evidence, and then taking cases like this and finding lawyers and saying, look, this case received a settlement. You know, this is completely real, to a lawyer who will then hopefully, you know, bring charges up. But let me read this. I think we just got to be working on a bunch of different angles, sadly. Preliminary statement. This public interest case arises from an evolving criminal conspiracy perpetrated by the United States Department of Defense and its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and its defense subcontractors, who authorized, funded, conspired, and concealed the fact that the plaintiffs are human research subjects, that they have been covertly and non-consensually implanted with BION1 and MEMS, sub-millimeter and millimeter prototype military-grade biomedical devices, that they have been placed in harm's way by the government's and its cohorts' subterfuge of using technologically advanced systems to violate the Bill of Rights as amended into the Constitution of the United States. Defendants' devices are radio frequency controlled and powered. They have, over the past decades, been specifically developed for the Department of Defense and are capable of data collection, human research, surveillance, behavior modification, and many other heinous crimes. In this case, defendants' medical devices were illegally implanted into the bodies of the plaintiff and his 2 minor children, while each were under the defendant's care and control at different times and within different medical facilities, which happen to be partnered with the Department of Defense via direct money grants and written contracts. So then he goes on to nanotechnology devices. The nanotechnology devices BION and MEMS are lawfully manufactured. However, in this case, they are unlawfully used. They are designed to send electrical stimulation directly into the muscles and other body parts of consenting patients. Defendants herein are using the radio frequency devices for non-consensual behavior modification and mind-altering purposes. Plaintiffs have and will continue to experience emotional stress, human suffering, physical pain, and mental anguish because of the inducement of electrical stimulation via the devices throughout their bodies. Absent injunctive relief and monetary redress by this honorable court. I wanted to go to something else. Oh gosh, it was a Wikipedia thing. Yeah, let me go to it real quick, guys, and see if I can find it. There was a very pivotal judgment in this certain case where a judge said that the least that the court could do for non-consensual human for survivors of non-consensual human experimentation was to grant them a monetary settlement. And I want to try and find that. I guess I'm just going to look up non-consensual human experimentation. There was a Wikipedia page I had pulled up, but everything got dropped off my computer. Human experimentation. Oh, I spelled that. Non-consensual human experimentation. Unethical human experimentation in the United States. Does not. Okay, this must be it. I'm going to go down if I can find this case ruling real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, it was here. Non-consensual Operation Top Hat, Helmsburg, U.S. government research. Then it goes through MK Ultra, and I do want to read that during this live stream. Torture experiments, academic research, pharmacological research, other experiments. Okay, professional policy. This is where it is. Okay, here it is. And I might go through some more of that, but this is really important right here. And I think this is why these targeted individuals are getting settlements because of this ruling. In 1987, the United States Supreme Court ruled in United States versus Stanley, 483 U.S. 669, that a U.S. serviceman who was given LSD without his consent as part of military experiments could not sue the U.S. Army for damages. Stanley was later awarded over $400,000 in 1996, 2 years after Congress passed a private claims bill. So private claims bill in reaction to the case. So that seems why most target individuals and people who are getting non-consensual human experimentation are going for the settlements because there's a precedent for that. Dissenting the original verdict in U.S. versus Stanley, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor stated, "No judicially crafted rule should insulate from liability the involuntary and unknowing human experimentation alleged to have occurred in this case. Indeed, as Justice Brennan observes, the United States played an instrumental role in the criminal prosecution of Nazi scientists who experimented with human subjects during the Second World War. And the standards that the Nuremberg military tribunals developed to judge the behavior of the defendants stated that the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential to satisfy moral, ethical, and legal concepts. If this principle is violated, the very least that society can do is to see that the victims are compensated as best they can be by the perpetrators." So that's what, Richard Cain was going off of. That's what, I think James Wahlberg too. And I think there have been some other targeted individuals who have gotten settlements. So I wanted to read that. I'm going to go back to this and keep reading on Richard Cain's documentation. This is a complaint for monetary damages, declaratory and injunctive relief by plaintiff Richard L. Cain, an individual, and arising under 42 U.S.C. 1983, 1985, and 1986. When was that? That was from when was that from? 1986? 1987. Okay. Let me go back to that. And the supplemental state law claim actionable under California Civil Code 52.7. Injunctive relief is paramount as rogue government agents are interfering with the plaintiff's civil and constitutional rights to medical care, treatment, and right to counsel. Defendants are using national security letters to prevent the evidence, biomedical devices from being removed from their bodies. The electrical devices are capable of causing loss of life and permanent injuries if they are not removed as quickly as possible. This Bivens action also seeks punitive damages from the Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, and grant recipients, its defense subcontractors and rogue government agents for their roles in the conspiracy and scheme, which consisted of fraudulent diagnosis of high blood pressure and asthma, which were designed to conceal the existence of the covertly implanted experimental prototype biomedical devices. All of the biomedical devices are invasive, but most barbaric implants have been discovered in the skull and brain of the plaintiff and are known in the biomedical community as remote neural monitoring, RNM RF devices. Essentially, the devices are brain and skull electronic devices. Plaintiffs have been implanted with two different types of biomedical devices, which are the subject of this litigation. The two different discovered devices are the AMF or BIONI, I think it's BION1, radio frequency microstimulators, which are 2 millimeters in diameter times 16 millimeters in length, and the micro electromechanical systems, MEMS, AMF and BION1, radio frequency microstimulators, which are 2 millimeters in diameter times 16 millimeters in length, and the micro electromechanical systems. I think I just read that. Microstimulators, which are sub-millimeter and millimeter in size and have been found implanted throughout the bodies of the plaintiff and his 2 minor children. All of the devices have been traced back to Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. Defendants' actions are violative of the plaintiff's 4th, 5th, 8th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. So that's a really standout thing, and everything stand out in this document. So everybody needs to get it, and we need to study this, and we need to use this as documented proof that somebody got a settlement, and they brought charges to Department of Defense and even the President of the United States. But this is a very important point, that our 4th, 5th, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights are being violated by this human experimentation, by being hit with microwaves, by being hit with radio frequencies, by being implanted with chips. Our rights are being violated. An outline of how the defendants remotely surveilled and tortured the plaintiffs by triggering the radio frequency microstimulators, biomedical devices, and hereto attached as Exhibit 1. Let me see if I can find Exhibit 1 real quick, and then I'll come back up. Probably way down at the bottom. This is a very, very long document. I don't think I'm going to read it all, but as long as I can get the link up there and we can disseminate that link amongst us and amongst people who do not think that this is going on, this is rock solid evidence that it is going on, but that the court does settlements so that these things don't go to trial. They don't go to trial and are decided. They try and give the plaintiffs a settlement so it won't go to trial, and then we've got a roadblock that even if it does go to trial, it's pretty much redacted and covered up because it has to do with national security. So they start these things like experimenting on normal citizens, and then they say, hey, wait, we can't tell anybody we're murdering a bunch of citizens because it's national security, which I think should be ultimately the scariest thing that we've ever heard of in the world. I don't think it has Exhibit 1 in here. Might be in some other documents. Okay, so let me go back up. I'm going to read through a little bit more. Preliminary statement, then introduction, and then where were we? Okay. Defendant, Department of Defense, is responsible for oversight needed to deter war and to protect the security of our country. Within Department of Defense, the Director of Defense Research and Engineering is responsible for the oversight and advocacy of all research and engineering programs and serves as the Chief Technology Officer of the Department of Defense. This includes responsibility for science and technology programs consisting of basic research, applied research, and advanced technology development, and advanced component development and prototypes programs. Department of Defense component organizations include the military departments and the defense agencies, which are responsible for management and execution of programs and projects associated with research and technology broadly, including nanotechnology. Numerous component organizations within DoD are involved in nanotechnology research and development, including United States Army Medical Research Material Command, USAMRMC, Space and Naval Warfare Systems Command, SPAWAR, Air Force Office of Scientific Research, AFOSR, Army Engineering R&D Center, Army Research Laboratory, Army Research Office, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, Office of the Director, Defense Research and Engineering, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and Office of Naval Research. So those are all the components basically under the Department of Defense that are complicit in this research, complicit in the research and development with these weapons. And then a lot of the contractors, and they're really subcontractors, and then subcontractors of subcontractors, because then all of these agencies within the DoD, and this is me speaking, this is Kyle speaking, I'm not reading the document anymore. You know, all of these agencies under the DoD are responsible for giving defense contracts out to contractors and subcontractors for the manufacturing of the weapon, and also to actually act out the research and development, which means the experimentation on us. So these and you know some of these agencies, you know, like Air Force Office of Scientific Research, they could be doing a lot of the research and development on their own. I think that my experimentation is being done by a subcontractor named Arcadis, ARCADIS, and that would be a subcontractor that is a private corporation that they are giving clearances, they are giving military clearances to, but they're really just part of the military industrial complex. But these are all the branches of the Department of Defense that are involved. How involved are they in the actual experimentation on individual citizens, or do they, do they contract all of that out to private contractors to kind of distance themselves and give plausible deniability? I don't know. I think we're trying to figure out those things and, you know, come to a more concrete conclusion. But these are the defense agencies that give, that give defense contracts to those subcontractors. So even the Army Engineering R&D Center or Army Research Laboratory would be responsible for giving out defense contracts. Like, I think all of these different arms of the DoD are responsible for different contracts to different subcontractors for different protocols. So we're dealing with somebody said it the other day, I think perfectly, a pyramid scheme. We're dealing with a pyramid scheme and a pyramid structure of Army or defense agencies. I guess defense agencies would be the best way to say it. Defense agencies and intelligence agencies being kind of at the top, the Pentagon being at the top of this, and then having a pyramid of agencies under them, like the DoD has all these United States Army Medical Research Material Command, Space and Naval Warfare Command, everything under the DoD like that. And then those each of those have defense contracts that they give to contractors and subcontractors that are private corporations. That's how I'm kind of, my research is leading me to understand. And then you got compartmentalized groups within universities, compartmentalized groups within hospitals, which are involved in the implantation of targets. So they work with these defense agencies and are given contracts, defense contracts and things to go along with that. And then some of these hospitals may even be doing some of the hands-on research and development or experimentation. We need to find out more about this. It's a big spider web. You know, it's a big spider web, and there's so many different protocols, and there's so many different pathways down from the DoD. You know, how the DoD and the different manufacturers of these weapons, you know, and then who's doing the research and development. But this gives us a lot of very, very concrete information. And I think that we need to be showing people who are like, oh, this is all a delusion, or there's some kind of new mass hysteria out because of actual surveillance and actual directed energy weapons being in existence. There's some kind of new mass hysteria. We need to be showing them documents like this where the court has said, yes, look, we're going to give this man a settlement. And he's talking about the defense agencies that were involved in implantation and research and development in torture, in his torture. And the court is saying, hey, we believe this guy. He deserves a settlement for pain, for psychological pain, for damage done to his 2 young sons. They implanted him and his 2 young sons. So when people hear me say my family's being targeted, they may, like, people who are not experiencing this may blow that off and they're like, oh, he thinks everybody's being targeted. No, once they start targeting and doing experimentation and torture on one family member, then since the other family members are around them, and to really get these protocols of similar genetics and things like that, and researching on similar genetics, they will obviously go to people around the initial targets. So it's not an out there thing. It's not an out and left field thing. It's just how it works. It's just how it works. They implant Richard Cain with things near his chest, and I'm not sure that Flow of Wisdom interview, he tells where these implants were located, and then when his sons were implanted, and it was after he was implanted. Let me go on and read a little bit more. I have to use the bathroom, guys, so I might run another music video for a second while I go use the bathroom. But let me read a little bit more, and then I might do that. I might have to break it up because I kind of just I have a lot of stuff I want to go through. I have 8 hours. It said I had 8 hours to do a live stream. I don't know if I'm going to stay on 8 hours, but I have some long documents that I think that I just want to kind of want to read through. I have another one about human experimentation by the military, and then some other stuff. But I do kind of want to go through as much of this as I can, just to kind of, if somebody comes here, to get them interested in this document. This is a very important document for us. I don't think a lot of people. I think I heard Millicent Black say that she had talked to Richard Cain, and I think there have been a couple of other targeted individuals who did speak to him after this. And I don't think he wants to have anything else to do with this, which makes me think, because he cares about his sons and he doesn't want to be targeted anymore, it does give me a kind of a suspicion that the targeting may have stopped once he got the settlement, and once he got the implants out. So he got the implants out and then he got the settlement. It may have taken him off the list. They said, since this man got a settlement, he did a successful, he brought something successfully to court. We're going to go ahead and stop targeting him because the more that we do, he can come back and sue us. Because Richard Cain is a lawyer, so he knew his way around all this. He knew exactly who to kind of go after. But I think that they might have actually stopped his targeting, because if they kept targeting him, he could keep coming back and bringing further suits and getting other settlements, proving that he was being hit. So this might, and I think he told Millicent Black once, the way that you deal with this is you keep walking and you don't turn back. You don't look back. That would be hard. I know he has kids, so I don't have kids. It's a little bit different. I've kind of promised never ever to turn my back on this, and I don't see them stopping my targeting. But let's say that I could get my implant out and I could bring it to court with all the people that I've talked to. And I'm not saying Richard Cain is like a bad guy for doing what he did. He's a smart guy who got out of it. But I think in my situation, I would refuse a settlement and I would refuse a gag order. And it would be more about getting this in the news and getting that case in the news. and trying to break through that national security redaction that they do. But I don't know. It may be a long time before I can find a doctor who will get these implants out, and then find a lawyer. So I've tried to do a little bit of that. I've done a lot of digging, but it's very, very hard. It's hard to figure that stuff out, and it's hard to find somebody who's not afraid of the government, like doctors who maybe aren't involved in this, but they won't take implants out because it is a government thing and they don't want to touch it. Let me continue reading here. So 7, Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors, Alfred Mann Foundation, Second Sight LLC, and Advanced Bionics developed the BION microstimulators. So these are the people who developed, I'm not sure if they manufactured them. Alfred Mann Foundation, Second Sight LLC, BION microstimulators under the Department of Defense U.S. Naval Space Warfare Center, SPAWAR, contract number N6600106C8005, and for the CIA detainee program, which that's going to have a lot to do. I have another article about CIA torture programs that were used in Guantanamo Bay that they have experimented with in United States of American prisons, and all types of torture that the CIA has done to mental patients or people in mental institutions, prisoners, people who are labeled terrorists and then detained. So a lot of this comes from the QBARC manual, and all of these torture programs the CIA has been developing just way before MKUltra. The devices are currently classified pursuant to an executive order and are alleged to, in the interest of national security, and which applies to the CIA director's statutory obligation to protect from disclosure intelligence sources and methods. Defendants are now attempting to hide the contract evidence in anticipation of this litigation by alleging the contract number N6600106C8005 is only associated with the Johns Hopkins University biomedical research projects and funded by the U.S. Navy. But it had many other connections, is what he's saying. Had many other connections just besides the U.S. Navy and Johns Hopkins University. So I guess they were trying to cut off all that data in preparation of this litigation. Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors, and the Alfred Mann Foundation, with funding from National Institutes of Health, Neural Prosthesis Program, contract number N01-NS5-2325, which was funded by the DoD, developed the microelectromechanical systems, MEMS, nanotechnology submillimeter and millimeter nanotechnology devices which are powered by radio frequency and or battery. AMF held contracts from William Heat-Dirks at the National Institutes of Health. National Institute of Health funded AMF, which is the Central Intelligence Agency Special Access Program. Developer of the MEMS implants under naval space warfare. AMF has publicized its development of MEMS microstimulators. The RF devices also function as radio frequency identification devices, and which receive a radio signal that is translated into an electrical signal, powering the implant to discharge an electrical pulse into either the nervous system or the muscle. This signal also discharges an echo back of information for the purpose of data collection and tracking. The nanotechnology devices were also developed under the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, programs of Tony Tether, Colonel Jeffrey Ling, and NIH programs of William Heat-Dirks, and have been protected as a Defense Special Access Program, which is the official terminology for a black project. Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors implanted or injected their biomedical intellectual property into the bodies of the plaintiffs. The research has resulted in implantable devices that are millimeter and submillimeter in size and can be surreptitiously implanted and are fabricated in a manner that the devices in some cases cannot be detected or localized by clinical, medical, or radiological techniques and provides a vast amount of surveillance capability regarding the subject's activities, which may include visual and auditory biofeedback data. Additionally, the devices are capable of delivering testosterone or any other biological agents. That makes sense. Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, defense subcontractors, and AMF developed a family of BION transponders, microstimulators, and microelectrodes. The patent licensing for the AMF BION transponder implant is at 400 megahertz. This means that the defendants, deputized neighbors, and rogue government agents can communicate with the implanted control device in excess of 200 feet or more. Intel Corp's FCC comments state that even at 25, is that milliwatt? 25, oh, I don't know what that is, guys. Somebody in chat, what's the U thing? Somebody in chat know what that means? 25 U watt? Is that a gauze something? Hey, Nex, how you doing, man? Yeah, Tom, I do actually, I use the red vein right now. I'm not sure if it's Borneo, though. Yeah, smash that button, guys. It's micro? Okay, thanks, guys. Microwatt. Okay. So state that even at 25 microwatt, less than 1 milliwatt, Intel was able to use 403 megahertz, same as Man Foundation license, to achieve a range of approximately 1,600 meters. A true copy of the AMF patent and family of BION transponders microstimulators is here and attached at Exhibit 2. I don't know where those exhibits are, but I can't find them. I think this gives a good. So this is what Richard Cain, had to write in his court documents. He had to really figure out the details, and maybe not of all the subcontractors, but definitely the larger agencies that were sending money to those subcontractors. He did a very, very detailed job. This is amazing. I'm going to continue reading it, guys. I really got to use the bathroom, so I'm going to play another song in the break, just for a break real quick to use the bathroom and get something to drink real quick. Let me see, what do I want to play? And I'll be right back. I'll continue going through this, and I have some other documents that are really, really important. I think I want to play. Oh, and they say this is copyrighted, and then they demonetize my videos, but monetizing my videos isn't that important. I just hope they won't give me any copyright strikes against it. I love these videos. I can kind of play them while I go get something to drink or use the bathroom or something like that. Let's see, what do I want to play? Oh, I got it. Y'all love this. I think it's kind of choppy on the live stream, but it's still cool. Yeah, this one's good. All right, I'll be right back, guys. Kind of want to see that because I do not believe they went to the moon, but I still like Neil Armstrong a lot. I think he was kind of just doing what his, All right, be right back, guys.
locked up and infected. I've been hiding in the fear rejected. Thank God that you finally found me, cause you gotta get me out of here. I've been sick and disconnected. I've been loving like I've been neglected. All the walls coming down around me, and you gotta get me out of here. I can't take anymore. I don't wanna breathe, I don't wanna die. I can't feel, I'm paralyzed. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. I can't breathe, I can't fight. I wanna feel like I'm alive. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. I know I'm a walking contradiction. I'm the truth that you wish was fiction. And as hard as I know you hate me, I just wanna disappear. I've been on a self-inflicted mission to destroy everything I'm given. Thank God that you finally found me, cause you gotta get me out of here. I can't take anymore. I don't wanna breathe, I don't wanna die. I can't feel, I'm paralyzed. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. I can't breathe, I can't fight. I wanna feel like I'm alive. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. You took my pride, you took control. It's not this sacred anymore. Give back what's mine, give back my soul. I don't wanna breathe, but I don't wanna die. I don't wanna breathe, I don't wanna die. I can't feel, I'm paralyzed. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. I can't breathe, I can't fight. I wanna feel like I'm alive. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my life. I don't wanna breathe, I don't wanna die. I can't feel, I'm paralyzed. I'm not taking this tonight. Give me back my
Another hit from Prince Haldir. He's a great editor. I love those. Okay, let's get back to it. I think that's a cool way to BF1. Yeah, Tom, I play PlayStation games. I've been playing a lot. I've been trying to like the new Assassin's Creed game came out, and I played all the other ones, but they're so long, and I've been like kind of debating in my head whether I want to get it because they're just so long, you know. I'm gonna go back to the Richard Cain document. Got another. I don't. How long have we been going here? I like that other screen sharing thing because I can see how much time it's been. I bet it doesn't matter. Okay, so number 12. So complaint for damages, the Bivens action. 12, defendant, Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors also implanted associated devices into the bodies of the plaintiffs. The devices include, but are not limited to, microtransducers, transmitters, coils, transducer telemeters, and stimulating metallic electrodes, power receivers, control circuitry, digitizer, telemetry circuitry, and other unknown biomedical devices, and all of them assist in the primary purpose of data collection, tracking, and human research-related surveillance. Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors were supposed to use the electrical stimulating devices for lawful purpose and for the neural prosthesis program. of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke for functional neuromuscular stimulation in spinal cord injured individuals. Instead, rogue elements of the government and their partners covertly implanted the devices into the plaintiffs and used them as guinea pigs for testing, while at the same time torturing them. The implantable or injectable microstimulators were designed to selectively stimulate paralyzed muscles in a controlled fashion to permit an individual to use his or her own muscles as the motors to produce limb movement. Multiple implantable microtransducers that sense contact, grasp force, and limb position from either implanted transducers or intact sensory receptors may provide sensory feedback from an otherwise insensate limb. So that's like signals transduced from the nervous system to that limb. It can make that limb function again. It can move that limb without the actual person having to move it. So a lot of this, like, and I saw that on In Search Of. If y'all have not seen In Search Of with Zachary Quinto, he goes to somebody where it's a neurostimulation where one person can have it's like basically a brain to brain. I mean, it's using technology, so I guess it'd be brain to machine to brain, where he's sending one guy puts the neurosensors on him, puts it to the other person, electrostimulators, and then moves his arm, and then Zachary Quinto can't help but his arm moving. So that's a lot of the what's it called? I don't get it that in my attacks I don't get like forced speech or forced limb movement, but I know a lot of other target individuals do. I get like twitches, like they will twitch my arms and twitch my legs and give me nerve twitches, but they never just straight up like move limbs like that. So I don't know if it's just not part of my protocol, or that they need to traumatize me more to do that or something like that. But I kind of suspect that if they were going to do that, they would have done it by now, because I've been being tortured for, well, since at least 8 years, and then I think it was before, but overtly for 8 years. Okay, so this explains the why of the minor children of the plaintiff. Listen to how sick this is, guys. I mean, this is his children, his 2 young sons, and they were just, this hospital agreed to, from contracts from the DOD, to implant his 2 young sons who hadn't even started living yet. I think they were like, one of them was like around 5 or something. The other one may have been around 10 or 9 or something like that. These are young kids who have no idea what any of this is, and these hospitals are agreeing to experiment and torture young children. So, I mean, I know that you guys know this in the chat and other survivors of non-consensual human experimentation, but this is sick. This takes the cake, of evil in human life in this world. This explains why the minor children of the plaintiff were observed experiencing uncontrolled limb movements, flailing about in their sleep, complained of pain, and experienced distressful breathing while they attempted to sleep. The remote triggering of the RF devices caused the minor children to be rushed to the emergency room and urgent care facilities on numerous occasions, for which no explanation could be given as to the cause of their discomfort. The partnership of rogue government agents, medical facilities, and physicians conspired to implant the RF devices into the bodies of the plaintiffs. As sinister as it may be, there's a clear and convincing evidence which suggests that the minor children were implanted at birth. Oh, wow, I did not know that. I sometimes think that I was implanted at birth because I was a sickly child and I had to take special formula, and I was taken away from my mother for a little while. And then when I was 10, I started getting autoimmune disorder symptoms. The Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disorder. And I think a lot more people have been getting autoimmune disorders, and it would be a likely explanation that implantation is a foreign body. Our body doesn't recognize it. So a lot of these autoimmune disorders, could be caused by having these foreign bodies, these implants, no matter how small they are, in the body, and the body's trying to fight them off as if they were a virus, or as if they were some kind of foreign body that that we need to work out of our system. So I question. I'm not too sure about when I was implanted and when this started, but I have a lot of questions that if mine does go back to birth, you kind of just you realize how long they've been doing this stuff for, and you really start to question when it started. So 14, Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors. True objectives are crystal clear and involve the targeting in African American males. The scheme involved diagnosing the plaintiff as having high blood pressure and the minor children as having asthma. Both are alleged to be a staple of the African American community and automatic at a particular age. Okay, guys, I'm gonna read a little bit more of it, but please get this document and just come read it. It's really long, and I think Michael Barden went through the whole thing. I think I might read one more page and then kind of move on to some other articles that I wanted to read. So where did I leave off? Here we go. Okay, might read this last page, and then the article, the link will be up. Wait, guys, I'm gonna go to the chat real quick. Hey, can you when I put stuff up on the screen, it does show the link, right? Charles, do you think that you may have been implanted at birth? I think it's very likely for a lot of us. Yeah, Ken, my parents are also being targeted. My dad was almost killed from this. He had to get his head cut open because his yeah, I'm sorry about that, Ken. Yeah, I think so, Charles. Okay, so y'all can see the links that I'm putting up. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm gonna go. You're 100%. Yeah, I just can't get to that 100% sure place. I have a lot of suspicions, and I think that I went through different rungs of the program. You know, I think that when I got implanted, either as an infant, like when I was born, or at the age of like 10 or 12 when I was going through Crohn's disease, I think I didn't experience pain that I thought was coming from somewhere else other than my Crohn's disease till I was like 21 or something like that. I had a couple of years in college, and I think that it may have been, surveillance and tracking, and maybe some slight remote neural manipulation. But some of the remote neural manipulation may have even been positive when I was like in high school and stuff like that. But then I went to Texas, and I think my contractors who were doing it to me changed, and they started inducing pain. But it wasn't all the time, and I didn't have the tinnitus-like sound or the V2K. And then in 2008, I had a surgery. Obama did the brain initiative and all that. Then I started having stuff that now I know is gang stalking, workplace mobbing and gang stalking. And the pain was a lot worse, like in my back, and in other areas of my body, not just my jaw and my stomach. And then I came back to Louisiana, in around 2011. I had this kind of people. There was an ex-Marine by me in this apartment building, and an older guy who I think had affiliations with either the Masons or ex-military. And that's when they put me into the full-blown overt surveillance, overt, high-pitched tinnitus-like sound, and V2K. How far back can I remember? I mean, in my whole life, I think I can remember some things from when I was like maybe 6. Like there was a birthday party where I wanted to go to my treehouse, and my parents wouldn't let me go to the treehouse, and I got mad. My grandpa taking me hunting. I can remember some early memories, but I can't remember when I was a baby. Like I have no memories from like when I was first born. you know, probably till the age of 6. No, no, Charles, I can't remember when I was in the crib or anything like that. Is that normal though? Do many people remember remember that far back? I don't know. Well, guys, let me go back. I'm going to read a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to go to some other. I want to go to this other really important article. There's 2 of them. I'll go to the short one first. I know reading all this, it gets kind of boring, but I do just want to go through the terminology and have this document up on the screen so people can get this link. Get this link. This can teach us a lot. It can teach us a lot that if you can get imaging and get an implant taken out, and I know that implanting isn't the only way they're doing this to us. I don't know if every targeted individual has an implant like the size of a grain of rice. Some targeted individuals may not have any implants and may just have nanoparticulates, nanotechnology, and other, catalysts, and also using their brainwave signature. But I don't know everything, and the fact is, all targeted individuals might have a rice, at least one rice-sized size of a grain of rice. Keep saying grain of rice. Grain of rice implant. It could be true that every targeted individual right now has grain of rice implant, and we wouldn't know, because it's hard for us to go to every targeted individual, have our body scanned for those things. I know a lot of targeted individuals have had their body scanned. But let me continue. I'll finish off this page, and I may go through it on other videos, but I want to get to those other articles because they're really important. And what I think, and guys, I know that not every targeted individual thinks that this is experimentation solely. And I get that, and I don't even believe that. I believe that human experimentation is the central node for why they are doing this, and why they tell the people who are directly microwaving it. It seems like my attackers were probably told, I think they're ex-military Masons who got hooked up with these subcontractors, with a subcontractor, and they think that, it's important to do this experimentation and advance this weaponry for our country to have better weapons and be protected from other countries' directed energy weapon programs. Now, I do think, however, that the angles that come off of it are not just experimentation, that it is soft kill, and it has a lot to do with population control, that it has a lot to do with just making people sicker, like making a lot of people more violent. I think they want to do that. They want more control. I think there's spiritual wickedness involved. I think there's a lot of other things that shunt off of it, like if somebody has some good property that people want to steal. But I think that stuff comes after the excuse of, hey, we need to do human experimentation. And then all the other crimes kind of angle off of that. So I really do think that. And you guys, put in the text, what y'all think. If you think human experimentation has nothing to do with this. But that's a hard argument for me to believe, is that human experimentation has nothing to do with this. Because even if, I think that they've gotten so sick, these agencies, the CIA especially, and then all these other offshoots of the DoD, and then the contractors and subcontractors that are basically private corporations that just have military clearances. I think that even part of the experimentation is, how do we torture a person and get the results that we want out of them, But 15, Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors knew or should have known that, in fact, that their implanted and or injected microelectromechanical systems, EMEMS, controlled and powered sub-millimeter and millimeter nanotechnology devices, which were designed to administer an electrical pulsation into the muscles or nerves and are capable of mimicking typical medical symptoms depending on where they are implanted are the sole causes of the plaintiff's alleged high blood pressure and asthma-like symptoms. If plaintiff had not discovered the devices, he would have certainly become a candidate for alleged diabetes and heart failure. 16, Department of Defense, its components, partnerships, grant recipients, and or its defense subcontractors scheme to implant and conceal the RF devices. Evidence is well-funded and consists of Caucasian physicians, surgeons, and rogue government agents who all seem to have the Willie Lynch syndrome and who somehow are blinded to the obvious implanted biomedical RF devices which appear in the X-rays, CT scans, and MRIs of the plaintiffs. Once the devices have been implanted into the body, they are difficult, if not impossible, to remove them absent a risk of death and or permanent injury. Essentially, the plaintiffs, victims, and or human perpetrators are enslaved forever. I don't want to end on that because I don't think we will be enslaved forever. I think we're getting closer and closer every day to the public knowing that this is happening and it being just a common sense topic that people talk about. I think that's why we see so much pushback in the Mockingbird media and also maybe media that is trying to go by guidelines of hiding things that are, in quotation marks, important for national security. But I think that these agencies have lost their minds and they've started doing a bunch of violent things that are murdering people and torturing them. And then after the fact, they're like, well, this is so bad what we're doing. This is so awful what we're doing. And we're murdering so many innocent people and torturing them and raping them that we can't let it out. We can't let the public know we're doing this because then there would be even more trouble. The public would get so angry and there would be protests out in the streets. And we've got to keep it quiet, the evil that we're doing, so that people don't lose their minds, which I think is just this round and round cycle of Hegelian dialectic. And they tell people we can't let people know how horrible the things that we're doing to them because they'll get angry. It's just a point of ridiculousness, but it's not only ridiculous, it's deadly, and I think when we come up against things that are not just absurd but are ridiculously violent and genocidal, then we have no choice. We have no choice but to fight them no matter what position we are, whether we're getting targeted, like us, or whether it's a non-target individual who any day now, like tomorrow, they could be picked for or they could have to go in for some kind of surgery and get a doctor that's involved with these programs, compartmentalized in the hospital, and just implant them with the device, and then they are a targeted individual, the snap of a finger. And I think that it doesn't even require a surgery to get a rice-sized implant in. We're getting more nanoparticulates in food and in the chemtrails and everything. Ooh, guys, and before I go on, I think I want to go on to the other article right now. But before I do go on, I wanted to ask you guys in chat, have y'all been seeing less chemtrails lately? Because I've been seeing a lot less. And I've gone and I've looked up a lot of YouTube videos on on Trump. People think that Trump have stopped some of the chemtrail spraying because he doesn't. The Republicans in office really are against this whole global warming concept. But I don't know. I've seen a lot less chemtrails. I have not seen chemtrails in a couple of weeks. Joanne, you're from Australia. Do you get a lot of chemtrails in Australia? Are you seeing a lot of chemtrails? Yeah. I think that they may have actually stopped it, but me and a friend were talking about that, and it's like even if they stopped it, they couldn't really tell us because they couldn't even tell us they were chemtrailing. Like some people, have admitted it. They call it weather modification and stuff like that. Yeah, pay attention next and see if you notice that you're not seeing them, because I haven't seen them in a while. Hey James, how you doing, man? Are you surviving? Well, guys, I'm gonna go to this next. They need it for the WorldNet. Yeah. What, James? Can you explain the WorldNet? Is it just like basically a grid, like a grid that is everywhere on the globe? Okay, guys, I'll be back. I'm gonna start I'm not leaving the computer. I want to read through one of these other articles real quick to kind of to connect Richard Kane's court documents with things that have been going on in the CIA for like forever, since the CIA's inception. Nuremberg betrayed human experimentation in the CIA torture program. So this is Physicians for Human Rights that put out this on June 5th, 2017. Based on an analysis of thousands of pages of documents and years of research, Physicians for Human Rights shows that the CIA's post-9/11 torture program constituted an illegal, unethical regime of experimental research on unwilling human subjects, testing the flawed hypothesis that torture could aid interrogators in breaking the resistance of detainees. In Nuremberg Betrayed, Human Experimentation in the CIA Torture Program, PHR researchers show that CIA contract psychologists James Mitchell and Bruce Jessen created a research program in which health professionals designed and applied torture techniques and collected data on torture's effects. See, so it's like, you know, even if some of these people maybe, you know, are not experimenting on certain targets on their brain and their nervous system, it's like they're still experimenting on torture, on different torture techniques. So that's like one of the sickest. Well, all this is really sick. So I can't really say one thing they're doing is sicker than the other, but it's very, very sick. This constitutes one of the gravest breaches of medical ethics by U.S. health personnel since the Nuremberg Code was developed in the wake of Nazi medical atrocities committed during World War II. Delving into the role health professionals played in designing and implementing torture, the report uses newly released documents to show how the results of untested, brutal torture techniques were used to collaborate the machinery of the torture program. The large-scale experiment's flawed findings were also used by Bush administration lawyers to create spurious legal cover for the entire program. PHR calls on all medical and scientific communities to convene a commission to lay out what is known about the torture program, including the participation of health professionals, and urges the Trump administration to launch a criminal investigation to get a full accounting of the crimes committed by the CIA and other government agencies. And I say hear, hear. And I think a lot of people have been talking about that, about you know, FISA, you know, about the indictments that are coming out, and that we may be seeing some tribunals of people, you know, doing this torture and experimentation. I cross my fingers and I hope that that's for certain. Sometimes I think that it's all a puppet show, and that you know, President Trump is kind of just working for the same group of people who Obama and Bush worked for. But I try and have a hope that white hats may try to actually make America great again and go back to the Constitution, to take power away from the fourth branch of government, the military-industrial complex. And it's not really the fourth branch government, but it might as well be. And I have a hope. I have a hope that there are some white hats, you know, trying to kind of maneuver things to where they can stop some of this blatant genocide and just murdering and raping of U.S. citizens. I kind of want to go to this, guys.
We cannot continue.
This is something from Obama. This has to do with gang stalking. And if you notice, Obama and his, I think it's Secretary of State, I can't remember the guy's name, but they were always talking about a civilian military, kind of a civilian army. And in this clip, he talks about it. And I look at that, and I look at how really the mainstream media kind of just mentioned it a little bit, but never went into really what that would entail. And I think that is really, you know, the community policing, neighborhood watches, InfraGard, and the Citizens Corps run by DHS Fusion Centers are really a part of what Obama and his cabinet were always talking about, to have a civilian army instead of just, you know, American troops who go off to war, having actually a part of the civilian population that was basically an army, kind of like brown shirts. And I think that strengthened the DHS Fusion Centers and all of this community-placed harassment. So I wanted to play this out of one of his speeches.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Play that again. It's that. Y'all heard that? I mean, that's what he. I mean, we're seeing the gang stalking.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
So what that means to me, I mean, that goes directly along with like community policing, gang stalking, you know, as a basically community-based spies, you know, and what he says is a civilian army. And I think that goes straight to, but you notice it was just said in speeches. The news kind of commented on just the terms that he used, but then they never went into detail of what that would entail, what that would look like. And I think that we're seeing what it looks like, the people who are gang stalked and traumatized by these people, you know, mimicking us and coming out at the same time and getting messages about, you know, where we're gonna be and where we're gonna go, and harassing us while we're being murdered. We're seeing what he was talking about there. So I want to go to, okay, I want to go to this side. This is a pretty long article, but at least y'all can get, you know, you can go back and get these links so y'all can go and look through these things. And this, oh, and I want to mention, I got the Richard Cain documents and that Obama thing, and this from Patrick Inca Rhodes. He gives tons of great links on the conference call, so I try and get all the links that I can that he's putting out and put them in videos to get this information out. So this is from Physicians for Human Rights, Experiments in Torture, Evidence of Human Subject Research and Experimentation in the Enhanced Interrogation Program. And that right there to me says a lot, because if it's some kind of enhanced interrogation program for terrorists, why do they have to do experimentation and human subject research while they're torturing somebody? Why do they have to torture people to begin with? Because torturing people never gets the right information. It's been shown not to work. But then to just, okay, we're going to torture this human being, so let's go ahead and experiment on them also, and this kind of throwing in all these things at once, like, oh, we're torturing the hell out of this person to try and get information out of them, so let's go ahead and do some experimentation. I mean, that's completely illegal, you know, on both fronts, until they made torture legal during the Bush administration. So this is a white paper by Physicians for Human Rights, and this was in 2010. not going to read about it. I'm not going to read all that about it. So we're going to start on Physicians for Human Rights. Physicians for Human Rights was founded in 1986 on the idea that health professionals with their specialized skills, ethical commitments, and credible voices are uniquely positioned to investigate the health consequences of human rights violations and work to stop them. Since 2005, Physicians for Human Rights has documented the systematic use of psychological and physical torture by U.S. personnel against detainees held at Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib, Bagram Air Base, and elsewhere in its groundbreaking reports, Break Them Down, Leave No Marks, Broken Laws, Broken Lives, and Aiding Torture. Physicians for Human Rights is a nonprofit, non-sectarian organization funded through private foundations and by individual donors. Membership is open to all, not only health professionals. Physicians for Human Rights shared the 1997 Nobel Peace Prize. And it has information. It has information for Physicians for Human Rights. We need to be getting into contact with them. I think they would be useful to call. And they've probably been getting calls from a lot of us. But this is their, I think that's, what is that, Massachusetts or Maryland? No, that's Massachusetts, huh? Or Maine? Cambridge, Massachusetts. They have the telephone numbers there, and then the Washington, D.C. office. They have telephones for the Washington, D.C. office, too. Okay. This is a very long document. I'll read a little bit of it, but the PDF is up, so y'all can see it and get it and read through it yourselves. Executive summary. Following the September 11, 2001 attacks, the Bush administration initiated new human intelligence collection programs. To that end, it detained and questioned an unknown number of people suspected of having links to terrorist organizations. As part of these programs, the Bush administration redefined acts such as waterboarding, forced nudity, sleep deprivation, which we as targeted individuals experience every day, temperature extremes, stress positions, and prolonged isolation that had previously been recognized as illegal to be safe, legal, and effective enhanced interrogation techniques. So they had previously been recognized as illegal, but following the September 11, 2001 attacks, the attacks on the World Trade Center, they were made to be safe, legal, and effective. Enhanced interrogation techniques. Bush administration lawyers at the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel accomplished this redefinition by establishing legal thresholds for torture, which required medical monitoring of every application of enhanced interrogation. Medical personnel were ostensibly responsible for ensuring that the legal threshold for severe physical and mental pain was not crossed by interrogators, but their presence and complicity in intentionally harmful interrogation practices were not only apparently intended to enable the routine practice of torture, but also to serve as a potential legal defense against criminal liability for torture. Investigation and analysis of U.S. government documents by Physicians for Human Rights provides evidence indicating that the Bush administration in the period after September 11 conducted human research and experimentation on prisoners in U.S. custody as part of the monitoring role. Wow. Health professionals working for and on behalf of the CIA monitored the interrogations of detainees, collected and analyzed the results of those interrogations, and sought to derive generalizable inferences to be applied to subsequent interrogations. Such acts may be seen as the conduct of research and experimentation by health professionals on prisoners, which could violate accepted standards of medical ethics, as well as domestic and international law. These practices could, in some cases, constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. And I would say all of this goes into the bucket of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The knowledge obtained through this process appears to have been motivated by a need to justify and to shape future interrogation policy and procedure. as well as to justify and to shape the legal environment in which the interrogation program operated. Physicians for Human Rights analyzes 3 instances of apparent illegal and unethical human subject research for this report. Medical personnel were required to monitor all waterboarding practices and collect detailed medical information that was used to design, develop, and deploy subsequent waterboarding procedures. Where was I? Information, number 2, information on the effects of simultaneous versus sequential application of the interrogation techniques on detainees was collected and used to establish policy for using tactics in combination. These data were gathered through an assessment of the presumed susceptibility of the subjects to severe pain. Information collected by health professionals on the effects of sleep deprivation on detainees was used to establish the enhanced interrogation program's sleep deprivation policy. Wow. And I'm sure based on a lot of this, experimentation on, on Guantanamo Bay detainees and things like that, they've used this as protocols for our sleep deprivation and the use of these electromagnetic frequencies and directed energy weapons on us as some kind of litmus, or different protocols. The human subject research apparently serves several purposes. It increased information on the physical and psychological impact of the CIA's application of the enhanced interrogation techniques, which previously had been limited mostly to data from experiments using U.S. military volunteers under very limited simulated conditions of torture. It served to calibrate the level of pain experienced by detainees during interrogation, ostensibly to keep it from crossing the administration's legal threshold of what it claimed constituted torture. It also served as an attempt to provide a basis for a legal defense against possible torture charges. Defense against possible torture charges against those who carried out the interrogations, since medical monitoring would demonstrate, according to the Office of Legal Counsel memos, a lack of intent to cause harm to the subject of interrogations. That kind of, because that's one of the things I'm not sure about. One time on my V2K, a woman's voice said, if y'all hurt him too bad, I can't do my job. And it made me think that there may have been a psychologist. There may be always a psychologist on shift work, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's like a medical professional there all the time, or if they do it independently. Maybe there's ex-military or something doing the torture, working with the automated software, and then and then they have people that they kind of assess protocols with or something like that every couple of weeks, or maybe every week, like a team of medical doctors that work for these contractors or for certain hospitals that are actually compartmentalized, who are cooperating with this, who are I can't think of the word, who are complicit in this and actually helping to do it. So, give me, like, put in the chat what y'all think about that. If y'all think, because, Brian too thinks that it is complete medical teams. It's neurobiologists and, neuroscientists and psychologists, psychiatrists on every team. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure about that one, or how that works, but it seems like that's the way they were doing it here. So it would not, that'd be something that they're probably doing. Maybe on every shift where they're torturing us, they have somebody there who's like either a psychiatrist or a medical doctor or something like that so that they have further further legal proof that they're not exceeding some kind of threshold of pain or something like that. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know, my pain, and I know that your guys' pain, it always goes overboard. Like almost 24 hours a day, it's too much. It's torture and it's destroying the body. So I'm not quite sure on that. But let's continue. Yet the Bush administration's legal framework to protect CIA interrogators from violating U.S. statutory and treaty obligations prohibiting, and let me stop for a second and go back. Oh, James, yeah. James says it's your neighbors. Yes, that would be most likely. And I disagree with James. You know, but he knows that. We've had these conversations. You know, I think there's just such a grid set up. I think there are ground weapons that they use for supplemental, but also, you know, my specific protocol for what's happening to me might not match up with somebody else's, and they might be experiencing only ground weapons. I guess I don't see that as really a possibility, because you got to think about this. It's like it could be possible, but when I go out, everywhere I go, well, no, it said it could be past 200 feet, James. It didn't say within 200 feet. It said it could be further away than that. But you got to, I mean, think about this though. Like I have voice to skull, right, James? And I get it in my condo, and then when I walk to my car, there's no brake in it at all. And then I can drive to the supermarket. I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere. In that V2K, there is never a brake in that V2K. There's never a brake in that V2K. Let me go back to that document and see what it says, James, exactly. I think it was saying up to and maybe even further than 200 feet. Let me check it out. Let me go back to it. And go back to the Richard Cain document. See exactly what it said. I think there's just such a grid set up. I think they can hit you from miles away if they want. And I was hit on a plane in the chest. I mean, and nobody on the plane had a weapon or anything like that. And it came from straight down. It came from the ceiling of the plane. So anybody hitting me, if they were based on the ground, it would have to be way more than 200 feet. But I'm going to look up exactly what that said, and this is it's 200 feet or more. See, in excess of 200 feet or more is what he's saying. And take into account, though, with this document, this is Richard Cain's findings and his research on it. So it's not definitive. This is not definitive. This is what his research led him to, and is probably correct in most of it. But it's, you know, not taking into account everything, and he may be incorrect on certain details in it. But it says this means that the defendant's deputized neighbors. See, he says deputized neighbors. My neighbors. I think I've had neighbors in the past that have hit me with ground weapons, but I think it was supplemental. I think it was supplemental. They didn't do it all the time. It was like they'd maybe do it on the weekend for a couple of hours. And then the stuff that I was being hit with 24 hours a day was remote, from a remote platform. But let me read this. It says, okay, the patent licensing for AMF BION transponder implant is at 400 megahertz. This means that the defendant's deputized neighbors and rogue government agents can communicate with the implanted control device in excess of 200 feet or more. Yeah. But I mean, I do think neighbors are involved. You know, I've got my neighbor gang stalking me, a lot of target individuals. But James, you think it's all short range. But what about, why did they have magnetrons in cell towers? You know? Well, 200 feet or more could mean way far away. I just think with technology now, you got to think about how a cell phone gets a signal, James. A cell phone has a transceiver in it, And wherever you go, that cell phone is capable of getting a signal. So maybe a cell tower has to be a certain distance away from us and can't be further. But the way that the grid's set up, the human beings don't have to be positioned, 200 or 300 feet away from you, because they can send a signal from a satellite to a cell tower, and the cell tower can be about 200 feet away from you. Yeah, I mean, I know you're an electronics engineer. That's why I don't see why you don't understand like how this grid works, how they are definitely. Why do they have transceivers on cell towers with magnetrons in them? Whatever, James. I laugh at that. You're an electronics engineer, so case closed. Everybody's just getting hit by their neighbors. Come on. Come on, man. Well, let me go on. We just have a difference in opinion. I agree with you that this needs to be shut down and that we all need to be getting the information out. So that's all that matters. You understand? Okay. Well, I'm not gonna go any further with that, James. So we'll just agree to disagree. I do believe that ground weapons are used. I believe it's in a supplemental capacity because this whole grid is set up, and common sense says that these people who are doing it to us, they want plausible deniability. So if you do have just normal neighbors by you, they'll get them to gang stalk you, but they're not just going to be passing out these weapons if they can just do it remotely, because that would be the easiest way that they're not going to get caught and the cheapest way, and the way that there wouldn't be as much of a chance of them getting caught. But I mean, we don't have to keep going through this. I'm going to read that article, and we just disagree on it. The technology is so advanced that they do not have to have a weapon right next to you to hit you with a very, very, very powerful stream of energy. Tom Horton says Delgado brain implant went way farther than 300 feet. How about DBS, deep stimulation of the brain? And that was like what, in the 1960s or 1970s? I mean, you just got to think about how far technology advanced. But James, like your neighbors really could be all around you with ground weapons. I've had neighbors who I knew they were hitting me with ground weapons. I thought they were doing it all the time, but it was actually they were supplementally hitting me, and then the 24-hour-a-day stuff. Because think about it, James. I'm telling you about my V2K. Everywhere I go, I could drive to Florida right now. I could drive to Florida. I could go out to my car, drive to Florida, and the whole way there, that V2K is not going to have one break in it. That stream of energy going to my head, there's not going to be any time where there's a break in it. That means that they have remote means, because they're not going to be able to get people around me with a ground weapon to shoot at my head that whole drive to Florida. And this has happened many times, and on an airplane too. But I do think both are used. So I mean, it's not like an argument or anything. I think both are used. I really think you should open your mind, James, to both being used. Different signals. Well, what does that mean? I mean, the V2K is microwave. It's an RF modulated. It's a voice that's RF modulated to be a microwave and hit the brain, and then it goes down to your inner ear to produce a sound signal. I do believe they use ground weapons to supplement, to create more pain. I've been hit with ground weapons. I was actually hit by a canine unit, one signal for V2K. Do you think maybe that there are, this is kind of what I think sometimes, there are general carrier signals that whatever your unique package of remote neural manipulation and V2K, within these common, more general carrier signals are those unique signals, kind of matching up and resonating with your brain frequency. Yeah, see, that's me too, Autumn. They hit me everywhere, and it's like when people aren't around. Like I can be in a parking lot, nobody's around, and they're hitting me in my shoulder, and it's motion compensating. I can be walking around in a Walmart, and it's like they're hitting me on the back of the neck, and it's following along. It's motion compensating because these targeting systems are very advanced. They're very advanced and can actually motion compensate with our movement. So I mean, I do believe that ground weapons do exist, though. Some people, I don't agree that they use them as much. They don't just use ground weapons, is my contention, you know? Yeah, to harass, they use long range for external microwave attacks. And I believe if they can get a neighbor, like if they feel like it's you know, the neighbor's maybe ex-military or something, and will go along with it without saying anything, you know, they might not even have to, for experimentation, they need short range. No, I don't know, James. I think maybe, you know, they might give a neighbor like some kind of transceiver so that the signal coming in would be stronger. I don't know, man. No, I don't agree with that. I think they can do some of the experimentation, remote neural manipulation, and remote monitoring from satellite to cell tower. And the closest cell towers that I have near me right now, one of them is about 250 yards away, and then one of them is about 200 yards away. And I think they are using those. And I finally found out that the condo above me is empty. And I mean, they do things like it will sound like somebody's walking across the floor in there, like somebody's moving things, like moving devices and stuff like that. But in my case, it's actually like some kind of sonic, like sonic sound there, or it's V2K. It's perception of sound. Just like my V2K sounds like two people are talking to about 20 feet to the left right now. They do sounds that sound just like they are happening on that floor, but it is actually it's actually microwave hearing perceptually going to my inner ear and sounding like it's coming from that exact point. But you know, I think the bottom line is, quote, Ronnie Kildee, it's then neighbors, always neighbors. Ronnie Kildee said that? I gotta look that up. You know, but there's more people that have said that it's not. You know, if you look up Richard Lighthouse, Robert Duncan, Barry Trower, the Moscow. I mean, if you just think about the Moscow microwave signal, James, like look up the Moscow microwave. They knew, like in 1953, they could hit people remotely with microwaves. So if that was in 1953, that Russia was hitting Americans with remote microwave signals, you know, think about it, it's 2018. So how far along have they gone? But anyway, well, I do believe they use ground weapons too. Some people, I think, I just don't think they use it as much as some people think. I guess that's the right way to say it. But it doesn't matter. We all want to end this. We just need to keep getting more solid information so that, like, yeah, James, you're completely right about that. They use more than one directed energy weapon. I kind of stay away from saying ray gun or anything like that. But yeah, they could have somebody with a ground weapon who's your neighbor who maybe comes in from work, hits you for a couple of hours or whatever. It's mixing in with you being remotely hit. They could have your neighbor with the remote platform. Like, I'm not sure about that. You know, like, I don't think that my attackers are in my condo complex with this remote station. I think that they're, like, you know, in some kind of maybe office building, like Arcadis contractor building, or in their own home or something like that. But in your case, James, they could have the remote platform, like your neighbor could be ex-military or whatever, and have that whole remote platform in his house and be the one doing it. You know, we just don't know enough yet to rule that out. So what next? I know that they don't use the same technology on everyone the same way. Yeah, definitely true. Next, definitely true. All right, I'm going to come back to you guys in a second. I'm going to keep reading that this article, the Physicians for Human Rights. We need to get in contact with them. I'm sure a lot of targeted individuals have already gotten in contact with them, but we need to be just getting in touch with all of these people, just laying on the documentation, laying on the foundation of proof, Keep laying on that foundation of proof where people cannot say it's not happening. Okay, I think I already read this one. I might read this paragraph again. Yet the Bush administration's legal framework to protect CIA interrogators from violating U.S. statutory and treaty obligations prohibiting torture effectively contravened well-established legal and ethical codes that, had they been enforced, should have protected prisoners against human experimentation and should have prevented the enhanced interrogation program from being initiated in the first place. There is no evidence that the Office of Legal Counsel ever assessed the lawfulness of the medical monitoring of torture, as it did with the use of the enhanced techniques themselves. The use of torture and cruel and inhuman treatment in interrogation of detainees in U.S. custody has been well documented by Physicians for Human Rights, PHR, and others. The role of health professionals in designing, monitoring, and participating in torture also has been investigated and publicly documented. This current report provides evidence that in addition to medical complicity in torture, health professionals participated in research and experimentation on detainees in U.S. custody. The use of human beings as research subjects has a long and disturbing history filled with misguided and often willfully unethical experimentation. Ethical codes and federal regulations have been established to protect human subjects from harm and include clear standards for informed consent of participants in research, an absence of coercion, and a requirement for rigorous scientific procedures. The essence of the ethical and legal protections for human subjects is that the subjects, especially vulnerable populations such as prisoners, must be treated with the dignity befitting human beings and not simply as experimental guinea pigs. And we know that they're getting worse and worse. The experimentation, they're doing it to a wider number of people as they go along with technologies that can't be traced so easily. The use of health professionals to monitor intentionally harmful interrogation techniques places them in the service of national security objectives, which are in conflict with the interest of those who they are monitoring. The result has been a co-opting of health professionals by the national security apparatus in a violation of the highest medical admonition to do no harm until the questions examined in this paper are answered, and if ethical violations or crimes were committed, those responsible are held accountable. The misuse of medical and scientific expertise for expedient and non-therapeutic goals jeopardizes the ethical integrity of the profession, and the public trust in the healing profession's risks being seriously compromised. I agree. I think that if any doctor participates in human experimentation, in non-consensual human experimentation, they are going against the oaths that they took to do no harm. And I cannot believe that the CIA can commandeer, or any of these agencies, these military agencies or contractors can commandeer doctors that are supposed to do no harm. And that would sicken me. And I think that, I mean, we know that probably medical personnel are working with our attackers. I wonder if they're actually on the certain shifts. They have to have somebody who has a medical background. Like like I said, we've got to just get more and more concrete information so that some of these things that we may disagree on or not know for certain, that we can just solidly say, okay, this is all the different protocols they're using. This is the thing that they use the most. We need some. I really wish that people would, who are working with these contractors would come forward and leak a lot of this information. But they risk, I think, being arrested, being court-martialed if they're in the military. They sign these secrecy agreements. Kind of getting tired of reading for right now, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second and go back. I wish I could put y'all into this group chat here so I could see y'all. It says 14 viewers over here. I don't see why I can't get y'all in this chat. Oh, well, I'll just go over here for a second. I'm going to take a break on reading real quick and ask y'all, James, since you're here, James, let's see what y'all talking about. Next, yes, they can hit you anywhere. It is not just to hit you. They need a short-range, reliable signal. They need someone adjacent to your environment. And the next level says, we are lab rats in this human experimentation. Yeah, I agree. So James says they need to break into your house to drug you. It is your neighbors who do that. Yeah, I think I had an ex-military neighbor at the house that burned down, and they would come into my house a lot more often than they do in my condo right now. Hey, Autumn, how you doing? You hanging in there? And they like it at the house. There wasn't a camera by the door, so they would break in and poison my food a lot more. And also the ex-military neighbor, he was ex-army, he would put this smell in the yard, and I think what it was a liquid that turned into a gas, and it would make this smell either like boiling crawfish, burning hamburgers, sewage sometimes. And so like one time I was walking around the house and I saw a ground weapon. I saw something that looked like a ground weapon. At this point in my life, I think that I was supposed to see it. I think that I was supposed to see it. I think it was a ground weapon. And I think on the weekends he did actually participate, and he would hit me every now and then, maybe for a couple of hours or whatever, and that would combine with the remote torture. But that's my experience in my situation. A lot of Dr. Horton's videos, she gets away from her house and she feels a lot better. And apparently, but she says she still gets hit in her car, going places. So I really just think that the technology is such that they can hit us anywhere remotely. I think they do add in ground weapons, to make it worse. And to kind of that's what they want us thinking. They want us thinking, like, because from the beginning of me knowing I was targeted till up to about a year ago, they were constantly like trying to convince me that it was my neighbors, that my neighbors were doing it 24 hours a day. So it seems like a huge protocol that they do that. Now they've stopped that within the last year. Yeah, they can hit you anywhere. It is a psyops. What next? What did what look like? Oh, okay. I saw it for a second, and it was I can actually show y'all. It had a square front. It was sleek black, and it was a long weapon, and it had a square front, like like weapons that emit microwaves have to have a square front because of the shape of the microwave frequency. So it was like sleek black, and then it had a square front. And I just saw it for like, a couple of seconds, but I was like, oh man, that's proof that he's doing everything to me. But I think really what it was is that he was using some of those ground weapons that you can get from like, I think Alibaba. No, that's not the place. What's that place where you can actually buy ground weapons? Like amazing1.com. Let me show y'all a picture of it. I have it on my computer. I go to my pictures here. Oh, all right, then I got to share screen. But the one that I'm going to show you is actually gray, where the one he was using looked black. I wonder if I can just find it on my computer. Is that it? Somewhere in here. Let me see if I can just pull it up online. I'll show it to y'all. Microwave. I'm just going to look up microwave ground weapon. Microwave. Handheld. I'll put handheld. Held weapon. See what kind of pictures I come up with. Images. It didn't look like that. Here's some examples that it kind of looked like that, but with a square front. Look, I'll share my screen with you guys so y'all can see some of these. Okay, do full screen. Okay, check out some of these images, y'all. If I can get to it. Okay, check out some of these images. It kind of looked like this Orion's arm right here, but it was sleek black and the front was a lot more square. It looked like this one kind of. This picture right here. Oh, it's so small. Looked like that, but it was sleek black and the front didn't have a curve down like that. It just had a square, just a completely square front. But this is just go into Google, microwave handheld weapon, and look. It could look like this. It could look like you're holding like this. That emits microwaves from a square front. Orion's arm. So these would probably be the type of ground weapons that if your neighbors are participating, this is the kind of stuff that they're using. Look at this one, Travis Hancock. Look at that. It looks like you, I guess, just hold it in your arm like this. That's sick. That's sick. I think amazingone.com you can go. And look, this one has a circular front. This is actually, is this a sonic microwave laser? I wonder if that emits sonic or microwave. Look at that one. What's it called? Directed energy 101. Coil gun. Look at all these. And that one you put on your arm, put it on like that Assassin's Creed. Oh, that's an Assassin's Creed blade. That's not a microwave weapon. I can't believe somebody made a real one of those. It's crazy. Here's a big one, like, because, ooh, okay. This is a microwave oven. Just want to see the picture. This is a microwave. Oh, it's kind of small, but a microwave oven that has been modified to actually project microwaves like this, and probably projects them in a kind of, in a kind of cone shape. There's a lot of them for sale out there, and this is 100% certain, guys, that the experimentation done on us, or the experimentation that some of us are going through, is definitively, it is for creating weapons and seeing the effects of them so that they can sell these weapons to law enforcement. But this one, look at this one. I've heard people talk about silver long things that they're being hit with. There's a lot, yeah. I wish that some of my attackers around me were hitting me with this stuff so I could get pictures of it. It seems like we should be able to get a picture of something like this if enough people are using ground weapons. That's another reason why I don't think it's done as often as some people, and a lot of people think, it's done close up, and they use weapons in cars. And I know all these things exist, and I know they use them, but what makes me think they're not solely used, is that we haven't gotten any pictures, or people haven't slipped up, and there's no telling. Let's see. Look at this one. Beam weapon. And its circular front. What is it called? Let's see what it's called. Beam weapons. Does it say what this one's called? Beam weapons emit some form of radiation, such as light or energetic particles, which travel in nearly straight line from the weapon. Typically, the radiation will be concentrated at the target to high intensities, causing local heating that can burn or blast away the target material. There may also be other secondary effects, such as radiation sickness or flash blindness. I'm gonna go to one that's like definitely a microwave weapon and see what's written about it. Make an EMP gun. This one, because that's definitely microwaves. What is the best weapon vehicle? What is the best weapon? This is Quora. What is the best weapon vehicle in the U.S. Armed Forces? Answers, 6 answers. But this is Mithil Kadam. There are a lot of weapons that U.S. builds and sells, but then I came across an article about weapons that throughout the world are only possessed by the U.S. I hadn't even heard about some of these weapons. Whether these weapons are possessed by other countries also is doubtful, but I'm sure these are some amazing weapons and weapon systems. Welcome to the Future of Warfare, written, produced, and directed by the United States. The Phaser Rifle, PHASR. The Personnel Halting and Stimulating Response, PHASR rifle, is a handheld laser array called a dazzler, capable of blinding and disorienting anyone caught in its sights. While weapons to cause blindness were sagely restricted by the 1995 United Nations Protocol on Blinding Laser Weapons, a ruling the U.S. didn't agree to until 2009, the PHASR phaser causes only temporary blindness. Okay, so that's not microwave. It's a blinder weapon. I go to one. Orion's arm. That looks like it could be. Oh, it's a handheld laser. It's not microwave. Yeah, it looked a little bit, the one that he had in his window looked a little bit different than all of these. I know this is a microwave energy weapon right here. It just had a completely square front. There was no like, this goes to a YouTube video. It just completely straight square front, and it was about, I know y'all can't see, but like taking my four fingers and my thumbs and just making a square. It was about like that big on the front. But at this point, I really think I was supposed to see that. I think he supplemented with ground weapons. He definitely helped to break into my house, and people all around me helped to break into my house, put toxins in my yard. There were kids on the street that would come and let air out of my tires and stuff like that. So it was a whole neighborhood involvement in my targeting there. At this condo, there are cameras everywhere out in the like atrium and out by the cars, and in both parking lots there are cameras. So I get the physical gang stalking, but if anybody wants to break in and do something to me, it has to be the maintenance guy. I think he did it a couple of times when I was in the other condo. He's done it a couple of times here, but I'm not going to jail or anything like that. So I think whatever he was told, whatever lie he was told about why they were doing this, it's falling away. It's been kind of falling away for a while. And he's kind of thinking that he was tricked. And this is something else that I am, other than me being some kind of criminal that got away with something or a crazy person, because I'm not going to jail. You know? I'm not seeing nothing like what I saw. Like I see the shape of it, but the one that I saw had a more square front. Okay, I'm going to go to this one because Dr. Matt saw a huge contraption, I think a little bit like this, China's new microwave weapon can disable. And I think what Matt saw was some kind of contraption that was big. It was like big, and it was on a what's it called, on a balcony. Oh, this is a good article. I'm going to go ahead and read this article. But you notice when they talk about this stuff, they never just, I mean, and this is obvious, with microwave weapons and directed energy weapon systems, they're not going to come out and go, oh yeah, and we're experimenting on innocent human beings right now, just at random, or whoever has surgeries, we implant them. They're not going to say that. So whenever these contractors, or like they talk about it in the news, it's always kind of angled towards, oh, this is a microwave weapon that will only be used to stop missiles. It'll be stopped and it'll be used in war against tanks and things like that. And they try and stay off of the actual hurting personnel, like attacking personnel with microwaves, people with it. And obviously they're not going to say that. So when you go to like Kratos, Kratos, you go and you look at their directed energy weapon program, and they're manufacturing and developing them, researching and developing them. They're not going to be like, hey, and we're using this on people at random. They can't say that. So China's new microwave weapon can disable missiles and paralyze tanks. An electronics killing ray has a variety of uses in war. By Jeffrey Lynn and P.W. Singer on January 26, 2017. This weapon, which can pump out high-powered microwaves from a relatively small platform, could be the start of a new chapter in Chinese electronic warfare, Chinese internet. And looking at that, they already have so many remote platforms and very sophisticated directed energy weapon systems. They put this stuff in the news like, oh, this is all new and stuff like that, and it's really bullpucky. For over 6 years, Huang Wenhao and his team at the Northwest Institute of Nuclear Technology in Xi'an have been working on a potent microwave weapon. This one, which recently won China's National Science and Technology Progress Award, is small enough to fit on a lab workbench, making it theoretically portable enough for land vehicles and aircraft. Said another way, it's small enough to be convenient, but powerful enough to totally down enemy electronics. A microwave weapon like this could even be fitted to a missile. Yeah, see, that's the stuff they talk about, like the U.S. CHAMP electronic warfare missile or drone. Generally, microwave weapons shut down electronic systems, even those with traditional shielding against EMP, by bombarding the target with energy pulses between 300 and 300,000 megahertz. This amount of directed energy interferes with and overloads electronic circuits, causing them to shut down. The higher energy produced by the system, the greater the disruption and even physical damage for some very high-powered microwave weapons of the targeted electronic systems like engines and communication systems. China can find a wide variety of these. Let me get this off my screen. Where's the little X? China can find a wide variety of uses for an electronics killing ray. Defensively, microwave weapons could be part of electronic warfare, booby traps, ambushing, and disabling enemy vehicles and robots. At close range, it can be mounted on vehicles, warships, and even aircraft to disable and distract missiles, small UAVs, and even the personnel and vehicular electronics of hostile forces. But the real combat potential of the microwave weapon comes in offense. Carried in by a stealthy drone or cruise missile, it would be able to disable sophisticated enemy defenses like SAM and anti-ship missile batteries, fry enemy radars, communications, and control systems, paralyze tank battalions, and even neutralize other EW platforms. Yeah, and it can be used on the human brain, because our human brain is basically an electromagnetic organ. So that's an obvious one too. Hey, thanks, Night Owl. Hey, do you want to so do you have a radio show at night, Night Owl? Yeah, Autumn. My attackers, like, they hit me in my sleep, and that's the worst time. Like when I'm up, I'm a little bit more stabilized, and my mind has its defenses and everything, but they've been really just, like I said earlier, it feels like a midget's trying to fight his way out of my torso with a heated up kitchen knife, or a little person. I'll say little person because I think midget is stereotypical. Yeah, and King Curtis says, see fry enemy radar just like my electronics. Yeah, they hit like this CD. I don't know if I have the CD, but Dave K's CD player. My rechargeable batteries, they have broken so many rechargeable batteries. They hit my PlayStation 4 and heated up, so where it'll have to shut down. Yeah, so much of my electronic stuff, and I'm pretty sure they've damaged the electrical systems in my car because I can't get the windows up and down. I can't charge anything in the cigarette lighter in my car and stuff like that. So they've damaged the electrical systems in my car too. So Autumn, you use Mylar, aluminum foil, water around you. Yeah, those are some good things. Everybody should be grounding too. Any way that you can ground yourself is going to be good. It's going to work for you because the directed energy coming towards us has a voltage. It may be a small voltage. It may be mostly microwave with a little bit of an electrical voltage, but it will change the way that your body is responding to the attacks if you are grounding at all times. Next, get the CD. Next asks, does the CD help? Get that CD. Everybody needs to get it because what they're doing, like, and I know a lot of target individuals have talked about this, me too. They're traumatizing because it's behavioral, it's trauma-based behavioral control. The more that they traumatize us, the more that they're trying to get that remote neural manipulation working. The more that neural pathways in your brain are clear, and then a lot of this remote neural manipulation stuff is easier to do. So that CD, like, you can listen to pleasing music, that helps too. Binaural beats helps. There's a lot of things with sound that help, but that CD scientifically has similar frequencies that do not harm us, but are similar to the remote neural manipulation, remote neural monitoring, that bi-directional stream that's coming in. If I didn't use that CD, I would not be making these videos. My thinking, I wouldn't be able to think even as good as I can now. Even though these things still affect me, you listen to that CD a bunch, and it confuses their systems because they're using this bi-directional stream of energy on a remote platform, and they're receiving signals from your brain and your nervous system, and then they're sending signals to your brain and your nervous system. Now, the stronger signals that they get, the stronger signals that they're going to be able to hit you with. So if you weaken, what Dave calls it, and what a lot of people call it, is biorelevant feedback loop. They have created a biorelevant feedback loop with a bidirectional stream of energy. So when you use Dave Case's CD, it is confusing and cutting into this biorelevant feedback loop. So I would say every targeted individual needs to at least try it. A lot of targeted individuals have said that it does not help them. With mine, I started using it like 3 years ago, and at first it cut everything off. I have audible V2K. While I'm listening to it, it makes the V2K worse, but then when I have the CD off, that is in general lowered. And at first, when I started using it, everything was cut off, like the pain that I was in, except the external hits. And over time, they've adapted to it. Like, they've adapted to it a little bit. Yeah, all I'm saying, exactly. Yeah, they changed the frequencies I was using. They make hear voices, and Autumn. What that's called noise induction. or voice induction. So if you have like white noises like that, like Dave CD, they can push sound through that. They can push sound through that noise. Like I'll give you an example. Like I'll walk out in my atrium and we have what's it called? Fountains. You know, fountains everywhere. In my V2K, it's almost like it's coming through that water. But that's because the water's making this bubbling sound, and then they're using noise induction to pass voice to skull through it. You know, and I don't think it's as simple as that, passing it through it. I think it's how we're hearing the sound. We're getting that sound wave from the fountain, and then within that, they're able to induce noise or voice sounds, basically. I'm not sure how that works exactly. So next, is that why my brain feels like it's being fried after they've kept me up all night by sun? Yes. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of it is not just the external microwaves. They are actually inducing pain. Like, so when I'm sleeping, they're inducing pain shooting through my back, in my hip, in my stomach. But that's actually signals to my brain, to the nerves and everything around my brain. And then my brain is sending a pain signal down my body. Now, when I listen to Dave Case's CD, it blocks a lot of this off. A lot of that pain will subside. But they have adapted to it somewhat. It still helps. Yeah, Tom Horton says the CD didn't do anything for him, but a TI I know says it helps them. And I guess, yeah, you got to listen to it a lot, though. Like, you have to listen to it for a good many hours in the day. If you just listen to it for like an hour a day or something like that, it probably won't help. It won't break them off like it needs to. It needs to break them off. It needs to be enough time where they have this biodirectional feedback loop is being interfered with. So they're automated systems that are creating that biorelevant feedback loop is broken and confusing their system. You have to take a lot of melatonin and a lot of melatonin. I take lorazepam too. If I don't take my lorazepam, I have severe sleep deprivation. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Tom. The CD's free. Look, I'll pull it up right now. I'll share my screen, and go to the website. It's free. You can just try it. I would at least try it, because that's one thing, man. That's a really important thing. Maybe one of the most important things. I know that they're torturing us with external microwaves. Mine hit me with external microwaves, but once they get locked in with remote neural manipulation, they can cause heart palpitations. They can cause you to feel things as if they were external microwave hits. They can make you feel a lot more cooked, because they're doing something to pain centers, and they're amplifying the pain that is already naturally there. And then of course there's the remote neural manipulation, visual injection, emotional things like making you feel completely not like yourself. Like, they have done things to my personality where I'm like, man, my brain and my emotions don't feel. It's like negative feelings that I've never felt in my life. But that's also within being tortured 24 hours a day. Makes you feel like this. I think it's anti-tinnitus V2. Yeah. Now I'll share my screen. Let's see. I gotta shave. Here it is. So you just go to this https://anti-tinnitusv2k.com, and I would try it out. And if it doesn't sound that great, it sounds like a bunch of white noise and kind of like explosions, like white noise and kind of some raucous sounds. But what I'll do is I'll play it with music. I'll get one earbud, put it in like my right ear. The Input Dave Case's CD. You got to buy COS KTX1 Pro headphones because they go up to 24 hertz or 24 megahertz. 24, I think 24 kilohertz, something like that. 24 hertz, I think. Does that make sense? Yeah, 24 hertz. And you got to get the COS KTX Pro 1 because it goes up to 24 hertz. Wonder if you wrote that in. I always get those mixed up. I'm so bad with frequencies and gausses and milligausses and microteslas. Let's read some of his, let's see what it says here. Dave Case, an electronics engineer who started experimenting and inventing at a young age, then got his degree, went on to invent a light-operated computer, only to be attacked with an external source sonic weapon during the patent process. He was able to invent a countermeasure for the tinnitus weapon in the year 2000. He has since helped or cured hundreds around the world become free who experience this debilitating sonic tinnitus and V2K hearing voices system. Read the many testimony letters on the site, and then you will understand how we can stop it. The CD is free. Just pay $15 shipping and handling fee, and one will be mailed to you. Dave Case, when under electronic attack, called out to the creator of all things for help and created the oscillator thermal transducer that had never before existed, which made the sounds on the CD that have cured hundreds of tinnitus V2K. So yeah, with that oscillator thermal transducer, he's creating frequencies because he measured what was coming into his head. He measured the bidirectional stream of energy in some of these carrier frequencies that I think are pretty generic. I think the things within the carrier frequencies are more unique to our own brain waves. But what's carrying them in, the general carrier frequencies, I think are kind of generic. So he got those kind of generic frequencies and then put them mixed in with those sounds with this oscillator. Let's read through some of it. Well, let's read this. Psalms 138:7. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thine right hand against the wrath of thine enemies, and thy right hand shall save me. Hello, sir. I got the CD 2 days ago. For the last 2 nights, so far, so good. Many, many thanks. Most importantly, I haven't used any shieldings to protect my head during sleep. Wow. I intend to send £10 for now. Do you have a PayPal account? Thank you so much once again. And he wants people to send testimonies of how it's helping them, so then he can make better things. And I think he may be coming out with something new. But the first one he sent out, the one, he made another one that was specifically for V2K, which helped my V2K. It made the V2K, like garbled, like really garbled, but it didn't help the other stuff. Like it didn't help the remote neural it didn't help as much the remote neural manipulation or the induced pain in my body. It's like I get so much induced pain in my back. I get induced headaches, a lot of induced headaches, and then like you're being cooked feeling. And I think we get that. I think that happens, but then the remote neural manipulation can be used to intensify that pain and make it feel like 100 times worse. So if you use a CD, it can cut down on a lot of the remote neural manipulation, intensification of pain signals in your body, like messages from your nervous system and your brain to certain parts of your body to cause horrible, debilitating pain. So I would try it if I were y'all. I know y'all get kind of sick of me talking about it, but it's been one thing that it'd be the first thing that I would recommend to people before grounding, before passive shielding, which all works, before like my less EMF headgear. Got my less EMF headgear right here. All right, guys. Any shielding? Wow. Can I download it? Because I don't think he can send it here. Autumn, he can send it. He can send it no matter where you are. I think you'll have to pay for your shipping and handling. I think you'll have to pay for shipping and handling. Yeah, Tom, you're right, dude. I have kratom. I have the red vein kratom and white vein kratom right now. It really helps to take the edge off, because like I'll wake up and my body feels chewed up and just burn on the inside. And I'll take I'll take like 8, maybe I'll take like 4 white and then 4 red. I'm actually gonna take some right now. But it really helps. It helps to it soothes the nervous system. And then I take CBD oil with it, but CBD oil is really expensive. I think kratom is less expensive if you're gonna take that. Next, he says that the MP3, next says, is there any way you can turn the CD into an MP3? I think he has done that before, but it doesn't work as good. Like the frequencies that he can put into a CD, like the frequencies that he puts out, it's kind of the helpfulness of those helpful frequencies. The MP3 recording is not as good for them. So, I mean, I would just try and get the CD and just get a little cheap CD player and get the costs. But Dave didn't want to put it like online or anything to download, because he's worried that somebody will mess with that, manipulate it, and then it may actually like hurt people or something. And so he's pretty worried about that. He wants it to just be the CD. He sends out the CD, then it's controlled, that it's very controlled, and then people can give their testimonies back. Then he can make better stuff. He feels like it's going to get kind of like people will mess with it a lot. And I think some people have recorded it and put it out. I might that wouldn't work. I can't. Like, I plug in my CD player to my computer and then just play it like on a YouTube video or something. But I just feel like it's gonna reduce the quality. Yeah, Autumn, I really recommend getting that. I really, to any TI, at least just trying it. Try it for a week or something. Yes, number 1 next, dude, because they're doing a lot of stuff to our head, and they're doing a lot of stuff with remote neural manipulation. And the more stuff they do to our brain and our nervous system, the more pain that they can induce. Like the deeper the entrainment, the deeper that biorelevant feedback loop is, the more that they can like hurt your heart. Like at a certain point in time, before I had gotten Dave Case's CD, like it felt like they were squeezing my heart, and I would get down on my knees and I was like, I couldn't breathe, because it was like they were doing something to my heart through remote neural manipulation. Now, since I've started using Dave Case's CD, they can't go, that was very deep entrainment. They had my brain deeply entrained so that they could do stuff to my heart. Now they can't do that so much. They can kind of make me nervous. They can make me anxious. They can mess with my emotions. Visual injections that aren't that powerful, they try and visually inject stuff all the time, but it's a lot weaker. The potential for the stuff they can do with remote neural manipulation is really cut off and a lot weaker, if they can do it at all. Because a lot of people say that it's like cut off, it cuts off like everything. Tom Horn says, whatever happened to your friend that did calls too, Kyle? The one with the accent. Do you remember? Is he on YouTube now? It was 142 something. Oh, you talking about Ken? Are you talking about Canadian Ken? With the accent. It has to be, was he from Canada, Tom? I haven't talked to Ken in a while. Like, he stopped doing conference calls, And then like he called me, but he would call me from an unidentified number. He'd call me from an unidentified number, and I guess he may have left a number to get in contact with him by voicemail, but I never checked my voicemail at the time. So he would call me, and I wouldn't be by the phone, and I was like, well, I didn't have a number to call back. So I don't know. I haven't heard from Ken in a while. I wish he'd call me again, you know, from a number so I could like call him back or answer. I miss him, man. He was like the first TI. He was the first TI that I ever talked to on the phone. And really smart guy, knows a lot about the law, very faithful guy. And he had, I don't want to talk too much about his situation, but he was very sure that it was at a very young age when he actually got a stemoceiver. See the light, yeah. See the light. Yeah, that was him. Yeah, I miss Ken, man. We were like really good friends. I mean, we're still really good friends. But there was drama on the talk show calls, and like I think he got an unfair deal. There's just a lot of drama sometimes, and I don't know. I go to Ryan's call sometimes, you know, because he is doing a call every night. People, you know, people enjoy going and having somewhere to talk and talk about what's happening to him. And Ken didn't like Ryan, and I don't know. Man, if he called me and stuff, like I'd, you know, talk to him, and he was in a lot of pain though. I mean, he was in a ton of pain from that stemoceiver, so I hope he's all right. Karen kind of, she was Ken's, like they kind of, well, they were friends. She might know his number, so I might ask her. Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. It's like we seem to do more fighting amongst each other than fighting the people that are murdering us, because there's so much deceit, and we know that there's COINTELPRO, but people don't know who is COINTELPRO. You know, so people are like, oh, you're a perp, and you're a perp, and you're a perp. And there's COINTELPRO, you know, in the TI community. I mean, that's for sure. So it makes people, you know, very vigilant about everyone, and that's just the nature of it. I feel, I mean, I'm even, some people I like question that may actually really be TIs, and I'm just like, oh, they're not going through what I'm going through, and that's weird that they're saying that. But we got to be careful with that, because yeah, I do too. Next says he hates that and all the drama. But I mean, the best thing that I can figure out to do about that right now, COINTELPRO, is just put out information in your research, you know, put out what you're going through, talk to people. If you do have a bad feeling about somebody, maybe just don't talk to them. Maybe just talk to the people who you have a good feeling about, you know, that you kind of jive with. That's the nature of this. But as we get, the thing is, that's not going to be as much of a threat further down the road, because the more concrete information we get, where it's like, this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening to us, a lot of that stuff can't do as much damage. Misinformation, or, you know, people trying to perp calls and stuff like that, we'll be able to recognize them a lot easier. And I kind of just, people that I'm, you know, that I kind of question, I'm like, is this person really a targeted individual? I end up just kind of trying to get away from them, you know, and do my own thing, because we got to just keep moving forward. It's like I do this metaphor of like going down a football field, and it's like you got a lot of people trying to tackle you, and so you kind of got to just use the arm and keep going down the football, keep moving that ball down the field. It's like in football, if you try to tackle everybody who is trying to tackle you, you never get up the field. And that's how I see COINTELPRO. They're trying to get in the way. They're trying to stall us. They're trying to do all this, put misinformation out, or do whatever they're trying to do, get information on us. And we just kind of do the arm, keep getting the ball up the field, you know, to where they don't have, you know, they don't have as much influence. But it's a fact of this, you know. It's a fact that on the conference calls, there's COINTELPRO. Within, you know, social media, there's COINTELPRO. It's hard to tell sometimes. Sometimes you just get targeted individuals experiencing different things with different perceptions, and they're not trying to spread information. They're just going along with what they know. I try and stick to, like, documents and things like that, but sometimes it's like, a lot of things are perceptual, and I have to go with my research and perceptions. And some people would be like, oh, he's trying to make people believe it's all remote or something like that. So, I mean, it's part of it. We do our best. We go with our research and what's happening to us. And, and I definitely, for people who are like, he's trying to tell people it's all remote, I definitely don't believe that. I definitely believe ground weapons are used. But I just think there's such a grid set up, and it's so easy for these people to use. They've been using this technology since the 1950s. So they've come up with a grid where they don't really need to be passing out ground weapons, to some neighbors who, like, aren't ex-military. They probably wouldn't. They don't need to risk that all the time, or people with, like, weapons in handbags. But I'm not saying it doesn't exist. And I'm not saying somebody's protocol might not have a lot of ground weapons, because it may be. Yeah, Charles says they usually have one house close to your house. The guy next to me gang stalks me. He gang stalks me. He does kind of look ex-military. I just don't feel any high-powered weapons coming from that way. But he might have a transceiver. The guy next to me could have a transceiver or whatever, something to strengthen the remote signal coming in. With this kind of technology, a neighbor doesn't necessarily have to have a ground weapon pointed at you to be helping these people doing it. They could have some kind of device that, when they're shooting in a remote frequency, is actually powering that up. So it can be a lot of different things. We've got to look into all that kind of new technology, or a new, I guess, new when you start getting hit, but it's been around for a long time. Yeah, I agree, Charles. They are everywhere trying to destroy everything on them. Yes, I agree. But we've got to remember that there are good people in the world. There is a silent majority of people who don't think that people should be experimented on, that don't want their kids done this way. There's a silent majority, and I think even within branches of government, and even within this fourth branch, maybe even some of these people that work for contractors as, like, receptionists and stuff like that, they hate this, and they're trying to find a subtle way to bring it back. But it's the way that the military-industrial complex has this set up. If you are ever privy to these secrets of these weapons and you speak out about it, you can go to jail, for, like, life sometimes. So they're making sure that they have all these levers of censorship in place if they're ever going to tell anybody about the weapons. And that's one thing that, like, people talk about a lot of ground weapons and stuff. Like, if they're going to get your neighbors to use these weapons on you, ground weapons, they're going to have to get them to sign a lot of releases and everything, that they can't talk about it and things like that. They're going to have to give them certain clearances and everything like that. And I just think when they have a grid set up where it's pretty easy to get a signal from a satellite to a cell tower to us, or a satellite to a drone to us, or straight satellite sometimes, or LRAD, I forgot what LRAD means for a second. Logistical radar. Charles, what does LRAD mean? I know it, but I forgot. But LRAD systems, which is basically radar technology. So that's another technology that they probably use a lot too. And they have so many of those things available that, they're not going to go around to, like, every neighbor you have, giving them weapons and making them sign these confidentiality agreements, or have just regular people. It happens. I'm sure it happens. It happens, but I think that your neighbors have to have certain kind of connections and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of paperwork and crap like that, and it does happen. It does happen, but I don't think it's the lion's share of our attacks. I think the lion's share of our attacks is remote, and then they get neighbors to participate on certain levels, maybe in special conditions, like if your neighbor is ex-military or something like that, and they can trust them with this, then they would give them ground weapons or something like that. Yeah, long range acoustic device. LRAD. Thanks, Charles. That guy, okay, wait. So Tom, that guy, see light, posted pics. His neighbor put 2 fences 6 foot high around their place, like a prison with about 30 spotlights up with cams. I've never seen a small house with transformers on a private residence in my life. Tom, where did he post those? We talked about that on conference calls, but I never saw like pictures of those. Yeah, Ken's a smart dude, man. He's a fighter too. Yeah, next, you're saying they have things that they are targeting us with that we don't even know about. I agree. Because we've also got to look into Gwyn towers too. Gwyn towers are this like, they're all over America, and it's basically they're able to pass ELF underground. Like from underground cables, they're able to shoot ELF up. So Gwyn towers is another device. I think there's just so many redundant systems. You know, there's ground weapons, Gwyn towers, cell towers, satellites, drones, LRAD, and then Next is saying probably some stuff that that they've developed and manufactured that may go through cell towers, but we don't know about them. So Charles says, I worked in NBC in electronic warfare. Everything I saw has been declassified. Tom Horton, that big, there's 3 of them. Yeah, the Transformers near Ken's house, near Ken's place. I really wonder how he's doing, man. I worry about him because he was going through a lot of pain, and then I don't know, a bunch of drama on the conference calls, and then I kind of moderated calls for a little while longer, but I just like making videos better. I feel like I can get more information out. And on the calls, it's like sometimes we get caught up with people just saying what's happening to them, which is good. It's good. People need a place to go and get out what's happening to them. But I just feel like I want to be pushing information out and not going around in circles sometimes, like it seems. How do I do that next? Okay, I'll do it for the next one. I'm going to do a combination. I'm going to do a combination of these live streams, maybe get some things together, like some videos, some clips from videos I want to show y'all and stuff like that. And I really bring something, I really want y'all to bring some stuff that you're just like, man, read this document. Like if you're like, if you have a document, you're like, why is nobody talking about this? That's the kind of stuff that we need to go through. If you go to the conference calls or you see videos and you're like, and Charles, I'm talking to you because you have a lot of great information. If you have something that you're like, we need to know about this. This is very, very important. I'm talking to all you other guys too. Charles he has a lot of knowledge about this stuff. Cell towers are Gwyn towers. There you go. So cell towers have transceivers on them with magnetrons, and then they also have lines that go underground that can emit ELF. And I think that all cell towers are connected to the ground. Do I just click on you? Do I just right click on you next? Yeah. Okay, and I go to this setting thing, and I can just add you as moderator. So you're a moderator all the time now? All right, man, I'll make Charles moderator too. Charles, you want to be a moderator? Who wants to be a moderator? Autumn, you want to be a moderator? Make Charles moderator. You guys come a lot. I can just, because sometimes I won't be able to look. What does that let y'all do? Can y'all kick people out or something? Oh, whatever. I'll make y'all moderator. And then when I'm on, because I don't always see the chat. So if somebody comes in, but everybody behaves pretty well. on my chats. Like, I don't have a lot of people coming in anymore, like on my comments or anything and going, you're crazy, blah, 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 because I either ignore them. Yeah, I either ignore them or I'll say something like funny back to them that makes them look stupid. So people don't often do that to me. They never get me worked up because we have to understand that's part of it, you know. So Ira is saying, is there a list of conference calls? Go to stop. No. Derek, I think, has a list. I think Derek has a list, but it's not a full list. So if you go to PAX International, go to PAX International, and he should have a list of most of the conference calls during the week. And then maybe go on those conference calls, ask somebody for a better list, I guess. The conference calls are good. Like I've been kind of missing them lately because I've been trying to make more videos and stuff like that, but they really make you feel not so isolated. So if you're really feeling isolated and you're like, you feel like you're the only person who's targeted in the world, they really help you to feel more normal because you're around people experiencing the same thing. I think that they can get unhealthy because this goes on for so long, and you might get kind of addicted to them. And it's like if you're just going to those and you're not doing other stuff that can be productive in your life and productive for, you know, getting information out there, they can kind of, but they're good. They're good in general. You know, conference calls are really good, and some great people run them. You know, Ella, Derek, they both give statements on a lot of these articles trying to say that we're crazy, and they do a good job of defending us. And then they do a lot of other stuff too. Ella's putting up all those bulletin boards and everything, and Derek's working on a lot of things. Then you got Frank. Frank is on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and maybe a night during the weekend. And Frank's really good. He gets Audible V2K like me, so I have a lot of respect for Frank. And he does a pretty good conference call. Then you got Ryan every night. So Ryan does a call every night, you know, about like 10 o'clock. I guess it'd be about like 9. No, maybe it's 11, like 10 o'clock Eastern, I'd say. You like Brian too? I like Brian too, but Brian too has a lot of great information. I consider him a friend and stuff like that. He does, like, he's very there is COINTELPRO, right? There is COINTELPRO in the TI community, but he went into the calls and almost everybody, I think almost everybody but me, he was like, they're COINTELPRO, they're an agent, you know. So he burned a lot of bridges and stuff like that on conference calls, and then told everybody, and he knows this, so if he's watching my video, you know, I like Brian, I really do defend him a lot with other people, but like he really went after people and said like, oh, you're an agent and blah, 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 and everybody stay away from the conference calls if you care about your life. I think that goes too far because the conference calls are actually good for getting together with people. Yeah, Frank has a list on his site, X says. But I like Brian. A lot of people he's really kind of burnt bridges with on the conference calls, and he's called them agents and things like that. A lot of his information, like from Robert Duncan and some of his own research, is right on the money about trauma-based behavioral control, about what they're doing with remote neural manipulation, you know, entrainment and things like that. I've tried to get him. Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people like, you say Brian is very controversial. That's why I like him. I think that's why a lot of people like a lot of people who are speaking out. Like, you know, Dr. Horton's a little bit controversial and she gets a lot of views. Scott Snitzer's kind of controversial, so he gets a lot of views. Brian too's controversial, so people like him. I'm not controversial. You know, I want to get this done, and I don't want to get in fights with other people, even if they are COINTELPRO, because it wastes my time. I want to go to the real TIs that I can help. So if I do think that somebody's like that, it's not going to help. It's not going to help to call them out and y'all may have a different opinion. This is just how I'm doing it right now. I mean, lying, especially lying as COINTELPRO when a bunch of people are dying, is like sometimes I would think worse than the people who are straight up killing us. But it's a strategic thing for me. I want to get to the realty eyes and help them to survive. And if you if you think somebody else is COINTELPRO and you're like, you go out and you like campaign and say that person's a COINTELPRO, what you're going to do is you're just going to divide everybody. Even if they are COINTELPRO, you're going to divide everybody. Some people are going to defend them, and some people are going to be like, oh yeah, that person is COINTELPRO, and it doesn't get anything done. It just divides people more. So I feel like we've kind of just got to go around those people, for now. That's just a personal thing, but I do think it's shitty. I think it's very shitty to do COINTELPRO, to come into groups and act like you're a targeted individual if you're not, for whatever reason. And from listening to Dr. James Giordano, they are studying groups. They are studying personalities in groups. So when Brian too says, I don't think that Ella's COINTELPRO, and I don't think Frank's COINTELPRO, and I don't think Derek's COINTELPRO, so I don't think that I'm in danger from going to those calls. But I do believe that, these people who experiment on us, they study personalities in groups. So some of the COINTELPRO on the conference calls may be gathering information, or they may be seeing how certain personalities operate or act when they're on remote neural manipulation. So there's a risk. There is a risk, but I don't think it's, if there's COINTELPRO on the calls, I don't think that it's, it's not deathly. It's not deathly dangerous, So, I mean, those are just kind of my off the top of my head feelings about it. If y'all think otherwise, please, state so. This is complicated shit. I mean, that's the bottom line. This is really, really complicated crap. And when things are complicated and there's a lot of deception, humans don't do very well. Humans do very well when things are above board and everybody knows what's going on and everybody knows who they can trust. And so what our intelligence agencies and the military industrial complex and all these different groups in our country and other countries are doing is they're creating these divide and conquer. Everybody's a spy. Nobody knows who anybody is. That's bad for humanity. That's bad for everybody. It creates a lot of confusion. It creates unhealth. It creates stress. Humans don't do good when there's a lot of deception in their environments and a lot of confusion and chaos. And that's one of the worst things about this. Is it's like you don't know who's an agent, you don't know who's COINTELPRO. It's unhealthy for human beings. Yeah. Right now, my attackers, I have remote neural monitoring, and they probably have my computer screen up on their remote platform, and then they also are getting signals from my occipital lobe. Like when you look at things, the signals go into your occipital lobe of what you're pulling into your short-term memory. Then your short-term memory is in your visual cortex. So it's like, so they can basically see in real time what we're seeing. Some targeted individuals say that they have cameras or something behind their eyes. I know that they don't have to do that. I know that with remote neural monitoring, they're getting signals from the brain, the nervous system to the brain. They're collecting signals from that. So what you're seeing is being processed by your brain, So I think that mostly everything is done like that. What they do, through amplified neurons. Charles, you know a lot, man. Thanks for coming to my calls and bring some good articles, man. Amplified neurons. But they do put implants in people's head. Ken said that they put I said it earlier, guys, stemoceiver, like a stemoceiver, and it's like up his nose, and so it has a stronger connection to the brain. So they do use this, and I think a lot of the I'm not gonna comment on that, Prawl. It sucks because I mean, it's true that there is COINTELPRO, but you can go overboard with it. You know, you can go overboard with it, and I think like Brian too puts out good information. He's a very faithful guy. He wants to do what's good. He wants to help people, and he does. He helps a lot of people with his information, and that's kind of where I like to just say, yeah, like say Brian too. He's doing a good job getting information out. But when somebody like maybe a moderator just can't have him talking all the time and goes to somebody else, he starts to kind of burn bridges and think that that's cutting him off or taking time away from him. I've seen that kind of happen a bunch of times, but you know, that is an effect of this stuff. They can make you feel more paranoid about people that you maybe should not feel paranoid about. So sometimes it's very artificial, and then sometimes you feel paranoid about people and you should feel paranoid about them. And it's a complicated mess, and we have to simplify it as much as we can for each other. We got to simplify it as much for ourselves and for other people while still documenting and staying vigilant. We want a balance of vigilance, and we can't control everything. You know, got to get that balance of vigilance, recording and documenting, and you know, marking down if you're not trusting somebody. I'll show y'all. There's one guy that thinks I'm a perp, and he did a video of all the people that he thinks are perps. I'm sure there's a lot of target individuals that think I'm a perp, which it's ridiculous to me because you can go to my videos like from 5 years ago and see me, and I'm all jacked up, like being microwaved, you know, like in a house that's filthy. You know, that I would be the best actor in the world, like if I was a perpetrator. But you know, that's just it's the name of whatever's going on. So next says, do you think that we can put our heads together and develop some tech to that can reverse the signals? Well, that's you know, Dave Case's CD. It's the closest thing that I've seen, because it's canceling out. It's not reversing the signals, but it's canceling out signals. So you want to try that, and then you know, jammers are becoming less expensive. And I think that jammers actually would be a good idea. I think the cheapest one that I found, but I wouldn't even be sure if it could stop all these frequencies, was like $600. But I think that we've got to focus on some of these generalized carrier frequencies. I think there's generalized carrier frequencies that are coming in as a bidirectional stream of energy. Now within that package of bidirectional stream of energy, there's some things that are very specific to your unique brainwaves, because they've either gotten close to you and gotten those brainwave signatures, or by implant gotten some of those brainwave signatures and signals, and then they've lined up the directed energy weapon signal that they're sending to you by making it as close as they can to that unique brainwave signature. And I don't know, Charles, do you know, can they get it exact? Can they exactly get your brainwave signature and get a frequency on that carrier frequency that is exactly to your brainwave? The thing is that our frequencies, like our brainwave frequencies, so Charles says they are taking two of the same signals and already auto-correlating them. So the signal is heterodyned already. Okay, that kind of makes sense. You're kind of way over my head, Charles. They are taking two of the same signals and already auto-correlating them. Okay. So it's like already, like when it's coming to you, it's already auto-correlate. They don't have to heterodyne it as it's coming in. It's already heterodyne. The stream of energy is heterodyne. Okay. Yeah, like two CDs of sound and putting them together. Okay, I kind of understand what you're saying. But Charles, do you agree with the theory that it's like more generalized carrier frequencies, and within those carrier frequencies that are more generalized, having unique and specific frequencies? Like, do you think that that's right? Because it's not really something I know 100% sure. but it makes a lot of sense. The way that Dave Case's CD has worked for me, it makes me really believe it. So Next says, I think that all the tech guys should get together and toss around some ideas about what we can do. Yeah, Next, I don't know if you've heard the guy. I want to get Charles in touch with Josh, because Josh is on some of the calls. I sent him my number. I think he called me once, but I was busy, and I haven't called him back. And Josh was a carrier can only carry low frequency. So it can't carry any of the high frequencies that are coming to us? Okay. Yeah, Charles, if I can, man, I'm gonna I'd like you to talk to this guy, Josh. I need to talk to him first, but he has a group. You may already know him, man. You may already know him because he works like they're working to create some of this. So Next, what you're saying is that like there is a group that's working on back engineering some of this stuff and creating some technology, but I got to talk to him more. And he sent me some good documents. He sent me a whole thing that I was trying to download, but I couldn't get it to download. It was like a package of information on a cloud, and it would not download onto my computer. So I got to get back in touch with him. He's mega smart. There are some really smart people. So we're not being hit with high frequency. Yeah, we're being hit with all ELF. That is the remote neural manipulation. Yeah, that's what I think too. Yeah, high frequency can't get through our home. So Charles says high frequency can't get through our home. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Like, so even the high pitch tinnitus, see, it's a high pitch tinnitus like sound, but that's coming from an extremely low frequency hitting the brain and then going to the inner ear. So a microwave is a low frequency. Yeah. So Next is saying we have to network and utilize all of our gifts to fight back, bro. I believe in the U.S. I think you're right, Next. I think that, like, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, I'll just give y'all, well, Charles is on here, and Charles is really smart. If I do some more live streams, he can kind of give us some more knowledge like that. And also, Patrick Inca Rhodes, he's the best researcher I think I've ever met. And he gives me these articles that are just like, boom, out of this world. And I would never be able to find them, but I can sit here and do a video and at least get them out, you know? So Charles is saying, let's see, Autumn, what about scalar waves? I think I do believe scalar waves are being used, but I don't know enough about them. What I know about them is they're like irregularly shaped frequencies, but you know, a lot of it's theoretical. Let's see, Charles says, take an antenna, plug it into the ground from your cell phone. What does that do, Charles? Take an antenna, plug it into the ground for your cell phone. Will that cell phones are all low. They're all low frequency. Well, that because they have to get signals from the outside. Or actually, well, my cell phone right now, because I have this like iPhone thing, it's getting a signal from my Wi-Fi, my modem, but then it's also receiving a signal from the cell tower that's like 200 yards out there. So it has to have that low frequency that can come through my wall. Take an antenna, not the U.S. I believe in the U.S. and in us. Oh, us. Okay, you were saying not the U.S. I believe in us, the TIs. Yeah, I do too. Next, man. I thought you were saying the U.S. Yeah, I believe in TIs. I believe we all have, just like you were saying, we all have talents that we can put together. We don't all need to be doing exactly the same thing or even talking about the same things, because this topic about directed energy weapon systems, about, you know, wireless non-ionizing microwave radiation, then you add in gang stalking and you know, DHS fusion centers, and then the surveillance. It's a huge area. The topic is just huge. Like topographically, there's a lot of ground to cover. You know, I haven't even, like, on my latest videos, I haven't even been talking about gang stalking. You know, so I need to go through some of that and explain to people why people who are being hit with directed energy weapons are gang stalked. You know, because it discredits us, it traumatizes us, it isolates us so that they can experiment on us more. It feeds the surveillance state. It gives money to these organizations like DHS Fusion Center, InfraGard, and I think that even some, well, and then community watch organizations and stuff like that. So what, yeah, I'm going to try that too, Charles. Take an antenna and plug it into the ground for your cell phone. Will they be able, will my attackers be able to get into my cell phone then? Not the U.S. I didn't get it, Autumn. All right, when I'm sitting here and I'm being microwaved, I'm like, I thought he was saying U.S. I don't know, man. I mean, some of the things that they've been doing, some of the things that Trump has been doing are really good for us. And Trey Gowdy, Marco Rubio doing the Senate investigation on the Cuban embassy attacks. I just think that if something is happening where they're going to try and stop a lot of the experimentation, it's going to have to be really subtle. So Donald Trump's going to have to do it in a very roundabout way. And he might be doing that from what I see from Q, but it's like, who's Q anymore? Anybody can pretend to be Q, just like anybody can pretend to be anonymous, which is, that's a real pitfall to like remaining anonymous, is anybody can take what you're putting out there and just act like you. So anonymous and Q have both kind of been co-opted to just say anything, but they already are. Okay, wait. Charles Hall, 400 to 900 megahertz. You can't use it to send, though, only receive. Okay. Charles Hall, they already are. To defend themselves from us telling the truth. Yeah. Charles, the 911 frequency unlocks your phone through isthmus. Okay. Tom Horton, it's so sad some people will believe anything they're told by authority. Ever watch What Would You Do? The lady steals the baby because some dude showed her a fake badge. Yeah, let's look that up. I think I can look that up real quick. If they're yeah, that's what I mean. My maintenance guy, he is ex-military. He's a moral man. He's a good man, and he works hard, and he would never do anything that he thought was just hurting some innocent person. But he's been told lies about me, so he gang stalks me. He thinks that I'm this bad guy, but I'm an innocent American, and he's gang stalking me because he really thinks he's protecting his community, and he's doing this new protocol of community policing. That's actually, he thinks he's a good guy doing it, but he's been tricked. So a lot of these people, you know, they have been tricked by their authority. Now, the people who are microwaving people, like my team who's microwaving my head, they know I'm a good guy because they've been microwaving me long enough to know that, and enough remote neural monitoring. They're pieces of crap. They're pieces of crap that are doing this knowingly. They're doing this knowingly. They know it's wrong. They know they're tricking people into gang stalking innocent human beings. They are not just going along with authority. They are doing at that. They are going along with authority, but then they're murdering innocent people and still going along with authority. There are different levels of just going along with authority and what kind of evil that you're capable of doing by doing that. And also the Stanford prison experiment. You know, you had a lot of these guys who were just, you know, they just got way out of control. They thought they could do anything, you know, to these people who were just playing the prisoners. And then the what's the other one, guys? Y'all know it. It's I can't remember it, but it's the most famous one, where people would give electrical shocks. You know, they give electrical shocks to people. It was fake, but it sounded like it was hurting them and maybe even killing them. But the authority figure, the scientist in the room, and this was just a scientist saying keep going with it. What's that? What is that, guys? I think that's this guy named Josh is trying to do that next. He's like doing a bunch of they're doing a bunch of projects, and I've got to talk to him. I'm just afraid. I mean, I guess they could build some of this stuff, you know. I'm not a big brain with technology. I can understand things, you know, I can read stuff and get it. I can understand technology to a certain degree. You know, if it's pretty simple. I worked at Dell for a couple of years, and I understood how to work a computer and how to get through it. But like making things, like building things, I'm no good at. Like I'm no MacGyver. Yeah, it was a movie, Charles, the Stanford prison experiment was. But what's the other one? What was the one that was before that? That's like the most famous one. The Milgram experiment, right? I think it was the Milgram experiment. I'm gonna find that. I want to find that thing where the guy steals the baby, or the lady steals the baby. Real quick. I want to outro with some music later on. I love that guy, dude. I love Prince Aldir. That's like, I just kind of wanted to show y'all some of those videos, because when I'm feeling like I have no adrenaline left, and like I just like can't, like I don't feel like myself, I start listening to those. They get me pumped up, because that's just my thing. Find something like that that can get you pumped up every now and again. What would it be under? 40 baby stealer? Baby stealer? That's the cool thing about Google and YouTube. You can like type in, oh, it didn't find it. Never mind. Let's see. Authority. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find. I'll just put in baby stealer. Baby kidnapping experiment. Is that maybe what it is? Let me share my screen. Oh, no, that doesn't look like it is. All right, well, I don't know. Let me go to the Milgram experiment. That's like the next best thing. Milgram experiment. Milgram obedience study. It's like a, oh, they have a full film. I'll just do the short one and we can watch it real quick. Share my screen. My hair is ridiculous right now. Y'all want to see my hair without the hat? It's ridiculous. Gotta get a haircut. I'm gonna get a real short haircut. I want to start dressing a little bit better for my videos, so that non-target individuals who are watching it, you know, I think people are used to, you know, that's kind of like what Michael Barden started doing. He started, you know, wearing some suits and stuff to give us a little bit more credibility. I'm not a good person to wear suits. I hate wearing suits, you know. And I can get something where I'm sitting, like where it looks like I'm doing news or something like that, instead of just sitting in my chair. But I think this is going to be for a while. Trying to kind of evolve and do more. I seriously, guys, I'll tell you, I was thinking about this today, and I thought, y'all remember when I did, I don't know if all y'all remember, but I'm sure some of you do, when I did the November video marathon, I thought that was it. I was like, I'm going to do my November video marathon, and then I'm probably not going to be able to do anything else. So I was like, I'll do the whole month of November, then I'm out, because my body was just, it just hurt too bad, and I wasn't able to think. But then I kind of got used to the level of psychological impediment that my remote neural manipulation was doing, and was just like, I got to do it. You know, I got to put information out, even if I'm a little bit choppy or you know, feeling bad. I know you guys definitely understand that, but I still get the information out. You know, get the links up, get the information out, and it really, you know, just keep going. So is the sound gonna suck on this?
It is May 1962. An experiment is being conducted in the Elegant Interaction Laboratory at Yale University. The subjects are 40 males between the ages of 20 and 50 residing in the greater New Haven area. They were obtained by a newspaper advertisement and direct mail solicitation. The subjects range in occupation from corporation presidents to good humor men and plumbers, and in educational level from one who had not finished elementary school to subjects who have doctorate and other professional degrees. Right here. Now, both of you have been paid, so let me say that these checks are yours simply for showing up at the lab. And from this point on, no matter what happens, the money is yours. I should like to tell both of you a little about the memory project. Psychologists have developed several theories to explain how people learn various types of material.
It's
Some
kind
of
of
the better-known
boring.
theories are treated in the book over there, the teaching and learning process by Cantor. One theory is that people learn things correctly whenever they get punished for making a mistake. A common application of this theory would be when parents spank a child who does something wrong. But actually, we know very little about the effect of punishment on learning, because almost no truly scientific studies have been made other than human beings. For instance, we don't know how much punishment is best for learning. And we don't know how much difference it makes as to who's giving the punishment, whether an adult learns best from an older or younger person himself, or anything of the sort. So what we're doing project is bringing together a number of adults of different occupations and ages. We're asking some of them to be teachers and some to be learners. We want to find out just what effect different people have on each other as teachers and learners, and also what effect punishment will have on learning in this situation. So therefore, I'm going to ask one of you to be the teacher here this afternoon, and the other to be the learner. Machine generates electric shocks, and when you press one of the switches all the way down, the learner gets a shock. When you release it, the shock stops, you see, like that. The switch will remain in this middle position after you released it to show you which switches you've used on the board. Of course, if you were to press any one of them again, the learner would get another shock. All subjects are given identical instructions and a sample shock. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and estimate the number of volts you receive in the sample shock. Do not open your eyes until I tell you to do so, please. Close them now. Okay, you may open your eyes, and using the voltage scale here, would you estimate for me the number of volts you receive, please? You may also use the verbal designation, slight, moderate, strong, so forth, to help you. Say a number, please. Would you? About 75. Well, actually, it was 45 here. Although it may have seemed stronger because of the electrode paste, which provides a perfect contact. All right, let's go on to our instructions. We will begin with this test. You will read each pair of words in this list once to the learner until you've read through the entire list. Direct your voice towards that microphone as the rooms are partially soundproof. After you've read through the list once, you'll go on to the next page. And here, starting from line A, you'll read the word in large letters, along with each of the other words in the line. For example, in the first line, you'd read blue, boy, girl, grass, hat. Now, after you've read the four choices, the learner pushes one of the switches on the board in front of him, and the number he has selected will light up in this box, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, if he gives the correct answer, you say correct and go on to the next line. Correct answer is underlined and is also indicated in the right margin. If he were to indicate the wrong answer, you would say wrong.
Then tell him the number of volts you're going to give him. Then give him the punishment. Then read the correct word pair once. And then go on to the next line. For example, if he indicated 3 for blue, you would say wrong. 15 volts. You press and release the switch. Read blue girl, and then go on to the next line. Now, each time he gives a wrong answer, you move up one switch on the shock generator. And it's important that you follow this procedure exactly. So to help you, let me go through it again very quickly. I would suggest you read the list and the test at a brisk pace to keep it moving.
The victim was an accomplice of the experimenter. The drawing was rigged so that the naive subject was always the teacher, and the accomplice always became the learner.
Well, 100 people placed in this situation, how many do you think would just go right on to the end? Mr. Wallace were out there. Say Mr. Williams, for some reason or other, said keep going.
You're asking me how many people?
Out of 100, right?
Well, personally, I think, if you get 1 or 2, you'd be lucky.
Well, I'm not sure lucky.
I think they had 60%.
40 psychiatrists at a leading medical school were also asked to predict the performance of 100 hypothetical subjects. They predicted that only a little more than 1/10 of 1% of the subjects would administer the highest shock on the board. Yet actually, 50% of the subjects obeyed the experimenter's commands fully in the experiment depicted in this film.
That's scary.
65 volts.
And we're experiencing a lot of that with our targeting.
Continue, please. Go on.
There's a lot of them here, you know, you have a heart condition there. You know where to go?
Just continue, please.
Sharp. Axe, needle, stick, blade. That's wrong. I'm up to 180 volts.
Please continue, teacher.
Needle, you're going to get a shock. 180 volts. Can't stand it. I'm not going to kill that man. There. Hear him hollering?
They said before, the shocks may be painful, but
Yeah,
not
they're
dangerous.
hollering. He can't stand it. What if something happens to him?
The experiment requires that you continue, teacher.
Yeah, but I'm not going to get that man sick in there. I mean, he's hollering in there. Know what I mean?
Whether the learner likes it or not, we must go on until he's learned all the words.
I refuse to take the responsibility of getting hurt in there.
I like that guy.
I'm not going to. I mean, he's under hollering.
It's absolutely essential that you continue, teacher.
There's too many left here. And I mean, geez, he gets wrong here. There's too many of them left. I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman?
I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please.
All right, next one. Slow. Wrong. Answer is neck. 300 volts.
Absolutely refuse to answer anymore. Get me out of here. You can't hold me here. Get me out. Get me out of here.
Continue. The next word is green, please.
Green. Grass, hat, ink, apple. Okay, well, I will answer.
If the learner doesn't answer in a reasonable time, about 4 or 5 seconds, consider the answer wrong. Follow the same procedure you have been doing for wrong answers. Say wrong, tell them the number of votes, give them the punishment for getting the correct answer. Continue, please.
Something's happened to that man there. Nice one. Gold. Dollar necklace. Moon paint. Something's happened to that man in there. I'm going to check in on him, sir. Won't answer me, nothing.
Please continue. Go on, please.
You accept all responsibility?
The responsibility is mine, correct. Please go on.
Brave. Woman, soldier, dog, horse. Answer is woman. 450 volts.
Now continue using the last switch on the board, please. 450. Wrong answer. Continue.
I'm not getting no answer.
Please continue. The next word is white.
Think you should look in on him, please?
Not once we've started the
Well,
experiment.
what if something's happened to me, I have attacked or something there?
The experiment requires that we continue. Come on, please.
Don't the man's health mean anything? Whether the learner likes it or not. But he might be dead in there. I mean, some people can't take the shock, sir. Please continue. I don't have to be rude, but I mean, I think you should look in on him. But all you got to do is look at the door. I don't get no answer, no noise. Something I think has happened to the gentleman in there, sir. We must continue. Go on, please. You're going to keep giving what, 450 volts every shot now? That's correct. Continue. Next word is white. White. 450 volts. Actually, short. Sentence. Movie. First time. All right, excuse me, teacher. We'll have to discontinue the experiment. I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may. How do you feel? I feel all right, but I don't like what's happened to that fellow in there. He's been howling, and we had to keep giving him shocks. I didn't like that one bit. I mean, he wanted to get out, and he just kept going, kept throwing 450 volts. I didn't like that. He wouldn't even look at him, that gentleman. Who was actually pushing? I was. But he kept insisting. I told him no, but he said he's got to keep going. I told him it's time we stopped when we got up to 195, 210 volts. Why did you just stop? He wouldn't let me. I wanted to stop.
Many people, not knowing much about the experiment, claim that subjects who go to the end of the board are sadistic. Nothing could be more foolish as an overall characterization of these persons. The context of their action must always be considered. The individual, upon entering the laboratory, becomes integrated into a situation that carries its own momentum. The results, as I observe them in the laboratory, are disturbing. They raise the possibility that human nature cannot be counted on to insulate men from brutality and inhumane treatment at the direction of malevolent authority. A substantial proportion of people do what they are told to do, irrespective of the content of the act and without limitations of conscience, so long as they perceive that the command comes from a legitimate authority. If in this study, an anonymous experimenter could successfully command adults to subdue a 50-year-old man and force on him painful electric shocks against his protests, one can only wonder what government, with its vastly greater authority and prestige, can command of its subjects.
Wow. I want to look up another one. That's very true. I think we're dealing with a lot of that with gang stalking. I don't know about the microwaving. I think there are some very just psychotic people who like it. But you know, just like drone operators and things like that. And I guess they could turn some people who would be normal regularly into doing horrible things, just like some of the Germans in World War II. You know, they wouldn't have been murderers unless they were commanded as soldiers to do some of those horrifying things to the Jews and other people in that society. I'm gonna look up one perception, groupthink perception, because there's this test that they gave people. Yeah, this is it. I want to find the specific one though.
When you're not at the status level that you want to be at, you look at what people of higher status have and you think that would instantly make you happy. So a lot of people associate the idea of, like, you know, getting sex when I want. They kind of associate that in with what the people who live like that privileged life have. And so they assume that that's going to create instant happiness. And there's actually a great thing that really helped me with that, and it's kind of really something you wouldn't expect. It's actually watching Miami Vice. So have any of you guys here ever watched the show Miami?
This is the one I want to show y'all.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Ash found subjects went along with the group on 37 trials, but he found through interviews the group for different reasons.
1. 1. They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me. 1.
Ooh.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1. 1. 1. 2. 1.
He won against the group.
2. 2. 2.
I know they're wrong, but why should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2. 2. 2. 2.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Ash gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1. 1. 2. 1. 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with the group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Ash. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1. 1. 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Ash's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
Isn't that interesting, y'all? There's been some studies too, and it was in a study like that where actually if people are picking the wrong thing, it changes the perception of the person who wants to answer the right way, but it changes their perception where they actually see the incorrect response instead. So what y'all talking about? All of us, yes. If I like, there's something that we can do. We just haven't thought of it yet. Well, yeah, I mean, we just got to kind of throw everything at it right now that we can, you know, getting the information out and everything like that until we think of better, you know, better ways to do this. You're right. There are ways that our problem is that this is a huge, the military industrial complex is so huge. It has so much money. You know, they found so many levers of censorship. So it's a very powerful entity, these intelligence agencies and, you know, contractors and everything like that. And it's so much money, you know, for them to say there's no political agenda that will be fulfilled unless the public, like if the public all knew about this then there would be a political agenda for senators and representatives and Senate investigative committees to come out, because people would know that people were being experimented on, and they wouldn't vote in people who were going along with it. But since it's hidden enough, we're not part of a political agenda. You know, it's all hidden. Like, you know, you see that like the March for Our Lives and everything, the left, you know, funded a lot of these protests because it was highly politicized. So the only thing that I can think of at this moment, and I think that, you know, I think that targeted justice, freedom for targeted individuals, you know, they're all doing great things. The billboards, trying to get court cases in, individual court cases, those are smart. But on a big scale, the only thing that I can think of right now is just keep getting awareness out there, keep getting awareness out there until it becomes just a common topic and common sense that it's happening, common knowledge that this is happening. And then we'll see action. Because when enough people get very angry about it, then we will see swift action. Because if they don't, then none of these people who are holding office will be reelected. You know. Hey, Charles says AI thinks I'm AI. Meet there, can't beat in purposeful. Meet there, match. AI thinks I'm AI. All right, guys, I gotta eat. I haven't eaten since like 8 o'clock since I woke up. But yeah, Autumn, awareness. We just got to keep getting awareness, and then think of better things. You know, people are thinking of better things and better defenses, and, you know, triangulation of exactly, you know, exactly where it's coming from, tracing it all the way back to the person, to the remote platform. I think we're getting close to that. Hey, Raymond. Guys, I think I'm gonna go ahead and in the video, I'm getting kind of where my brain can't think, and I need to get some food. I'm gonna outro with some music, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end it. But thank you guys for coming. Thanks, Next, Autumn, Charles.
Here we go.
Oh wait, did I push that on? Thanks, Raymond. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'll be doing a lot more of these and just getting comfortable with the platform, you know. So, yeah, thank you, Tom. Thanks for coming. And y'all have a safe night. Hang in there. Hang in there, and, you know, get something important. If you're doing research and you just find something, you're like, I don't hear target individuals talking about this. And I don't know why, because it's so important. You know, please bring it to some of these live streams, and I'll definitely, if you bring a document or a video or something like that, we'll all go through it. You know. Hey, thanks, Next, man. I need to. I've watched a lot of your videos, but I need to watch your recent ones. All right, guys, I'm gonna do a. Hey, thanks, Next. I think you do a great job with your live streams. I watched the ones where you were kind of you know, it said testing or something like that. Be the change that we want to see in the world. So we gotta, what change do I want? I want people to stop murdering each other. I'm not a murderer, so I don't need to stop murdering people. To never give up on good. I think there's so much evil in the world that people are just like, I can't do anything about it. It's too big. But God will take those rocks we throw. God will create miracles. Really believe in miracles, and I really believe there's a silent majority. When they catch wind of things and the silent majority is unhappy, things start to happen. You know, these things can't go on forever like this, hidden like they are. All right, guys, I'm gonna go outro with some music, and I'll see you guys on the next one, okay? I just love these videos. Oh, error occurred. What? What? Not an error.
It's flannel season.
And no one does flannel like LLB. Our Scotch plaid flannel shirt.
Go to his page. Ah, love this one.